Chapter 110. The man naturally saw the proud and stubborn attitude on her face. He slowly retracted his hand and tightened his sleeves. However, he did not say anything for a long time. His thin lips parted slightly, and the corners of his mouth slowly curled up, outlining an unfathomable arc. Yin Shishir saw that his gaze was always on her, and she felt a little uncomfortable. She didn't understand. Who was this man? Why was she always able to meet him when she was down and out? Yin Shishir didn't want to pay attention to him. She patted the dust off her body and turned to leave. However, a cold and deep voice came from behind her. "Stop." The man spoke very softly. His words were as precious as gold, but his voice was very pleasant. It was deep and full of magnetism. It was mellow like aged wine. One sip and it was easy to get drunk. She slightly paused and turned around to look at the man. Her eyebrows knitted even deeper. "Mister, what can I do for you? You're leaving just like that?" Wuxia found it funny. Other women couldn't wait to get close to him when they saw him, but she avoided him like he was the plague. Could it be that she was guilty? Wuxia's lips curved into a smile. This unfathomable smile made Yin Shishir feel a little dazzled. She said indifferently, "I'm not familiar with you, right?" Her tone was a little impatient, and even very distant. Hearing this, the attendants behind her were stunned. They had never seen anyone who dared to speak so rudely in front of the young master. It had to be known that with the young master's noble status and background, even the government officials had to be courteous. Therefore, when they saw her being so rude, their faces immediately showed disgust. However, the man wasn't angry at her cold expression. He took a few steps closer to her, and the smile on his lips deepened. He whispered in her ear, "Not familiar? But we've slept together." Yin Shishir's face was tense for a moment. She smiled faintly, but her voice was cold. "Mr. Mu, so you're shameless?" Shameless? Is that shameless?" Wuxia smiled deeply. "Do you want to see something even more shameless?" She naturally didn't know the identity of the man in front of her, and Xiaoshui naturally didn't care about the origin of the man, but it didn't mean that he Lingxiang and the others didn't know. She was so close to him, so flirtatious, that everyone present was even more shocked. Especially He Lingxiang's group. They more or less understood the status of men. He Lingxiang had been in the circle for so many years, and had seen countless people. He more or less had to be clear about the people and families at the peak of the world. After all, he couldn't simply offend them. Who exactly was this mysterious young man? They had never seen him before, and they didn't know what his identity was. However, there were some familiar faces in the crowd behind the man. Although they were now bowing their heads and following behind the man submissively, any one of them was a big shot in the underworld who would cause people to change their faces. For example, the middle-aged man standing at the back of the group was one of the top bosses in the capital. He was in charge of the businesses of several groups, and supported several groups of forces. He was the current master of the capital's underworld, and his words were absolute. Chapter 111. In this day and age, there weren't many people who did business with clean hands. The reason why they were able to rise miraculously in the business world in the past 2 years was that they had some kind of unclear relationship with the underworld. It was said that a few of them had made a fortune by smuggling, and now they were doing very well. Among them, there was no lack of high-ranking officials and leaders from other provinces, and even the government. Most of them had great power in Jingdu, but they were rarely seen. All of them held great power, and were important. As for the few tall men standing in front of the crowd, after He Lingxiang recognized them, their faces couldn't help but turn pale. These people were from the Mu family. The Mu family was a famous and huge family. They were also the descendants of the largest family in the country, and even in Asia. However, He Lingxiang did not know anything about his background. It wasn't that he didn't have enough information, but with his status, he didn't have the right to ask. This family could be said to be secretive in the underworld, never revealing their talents. He only heard that the Mu family had a big business, and the forces under them were both from the underworld and the underworld. Years ago, the Mu family had established Disheng Financial Group through bleaching, and the industry chain under their name was entrenched in the global financial industry. The outside world called this low-key but prominent family business the Mu Empire. Whether it was in the country, Asia, North America, or some countries in Western Europe, the Mu family's power spanned across the board, and was the revered leader. With the Mu family's century-old business and foundation, people who weren't in charge of the Mu family didn't know how vast the Mu family's business was. He only heard that a few years ago, a country had run into the Mu family's gun because of some political conflict. That year, Dishing Financial Group withdrew all its investments from the country's industries and canceled all long-term transactions. This caused the country's economy to rapidly regress to the pre-liberation era. The country had no choice but to tighten its belt and learn to be a better person. Each of these big shots could shake the earth and shake the mountains, but now, they were all standing respectfully behind the man. He Lingxiang only felt fear toward the identity of the man in front of him. However, this Yin Shishir dared to give this man a hard time in front of so many people? He Lingxiang sneered in his heart. Wasn't this a slap to his face in front of so many people? She was afraid that her end would not be pretty. His heart was filled with pride. Sure enough, he saw a fierce-looking, cold-faced man in the crowd about to step forward and teach this girl who didn't know what was good for her. However, when he raised his head, he saw that his master had turned his face slightly. His expression was extremely cold, and that gaze contained a hidden warning. His heart trembled, and he immediately understood. He immediately retreated without batting an eyelid. They didn't understand the man's intentions. The young girl in front of him was neither a relative nor a friend, yet she kept giving him attitude. This was clearly a great disrespect to the boss. However, the boss did not seem to be angry at all. Could it be that their master's iron tree had blossomed? Boss, who had never been interested in women, was finally enlightened? One had to know that the boss was young and full of vigor. He was in the prime of his life, but he had always been cold and unfeeling. Chapter 112. There were rumors and slanders about him. Although he had a fiancée in name, they seemed to be in love with each other. Some people even speculated that there was something fishy about his sexual orientation. Otherwise, there was a problem in that area. However, these were all just people's guesses. There were also rumors that his fiancée was infertile. Mu Yichen's biological mother was someone else. Grandpa Mu had been anxious all these years. He was so anxious that his hair had turned white. Firstly, Grandpa Mu placed great importance on passing down the family line. There were 3 ways to be unfilial, and having no descendants was the worst. He was the only one left in the Mu family. It was time for him to start a family. However, Mu Yaja had not married yet. Mu Wanra's so-called fiancé had become a joke. Secondly, Grandpa Mu had heard a lot of rumors from the outside world, and he was annoyed by them. He had been busy looking for surrogate mothers for Mu Yichen all these years. From international socialites to the daughters of the upper class, he had paid attention to those who were well-matched in terms of social status. However, Grandpa Mu had seen many people, but he did not like many of them. He was even more strict than the emperors in ancient times. As they thought about this, they looked at each other and exchanged a few glances. They were well aware of each other's guesses. This time, it was He Lingxiang's turn to be dumbfounded. Who exactly was Yin Shishir? Yin Shishir could tell that this group of people was not simple. She recognized the mayor of Jing City standing in the crowd. She had seen him in the newspaper some time ago and had some impression of him. While she was trying to figure out the man's intention, a series of messy footsteps came from not far away. There were also a few men's disdainful curses and noises. It turned out that they were He Lingxiang's henchmen, the producer, who had called them over. They rushed over as soon as they received the call. They thought that someone was causing trouble. However, when He Lingxiang turned around and saw his henchmen, his face turned pale. He turned around and glared at the producer. The producer beside him heard the commotion and knew that his henchman had rushed over. However, he frowned when he saw the situation. Yin Shishir looked in the direction of the voice. Judging from their rude and unreasonable gait, it was not hard to tell that they had some background and were clearly relying on He Lingxiang's influence. However, when she saw the lineup at the entrance, she could not help but be stunned. Ultimately, they were not as perceptive as He Lingxiang. With his qualifications, how could he come into contact with people of such status? Naturally, he did not recognize the big shots in this crowd. Director He, who are these people? Why are they crowding around the door? He Lingxiang turned around and waved at the men in suits. Hurry up and leave. Don't crowd around here. If you disturb the director's selection, you'll have to bear the consequences. As soon as he finished speaking, he saw that everyone's expressions were calm. Seeing that He Lingxiang was standing there in a daze, he couldn't help but go up and put his arm around his shoulder. The young man smiled and said, Director He, who are these people? Could it be that these brats have eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai, and are looking for trouble with you? He pointed at Xiao Shui. He Lingxiang's face turned even paler. He then pointed at the indifferent man standing beside Yun Shirshir. His attitude became even more arrogant. Or is it this brat? Hiss. Chapter 113. He Lingxiang smiled bitterly and shook his head. His face was unsightly as he winked at him a few times. However, this person was not enlightened. He even mistakenly thought that He Lingxiang meant the trouble caused by the black suits, and his heart was filled with anger. Hey, I told you not to crowd around here. Didn't you hear me? After he finished speaking, he took the lead and rushed over. Just as he was about to put his hand on the man's shoulder, he saw that the handsome man did not avoid him. He stood there arrogantly and did not even look at him. At that moment, the assistant only saw a black shadow flash in front of him. Before he could understand what was going on, his wrist was firmly grabbed by the man who rushed out from the crowd. A heart-wrenching pain came from his wrist. With a twist and a turn, his entire body was thrown into the air. He was thrown a few meters away by a huge force and slammed heavily into the wall, causing it to crack. The assistant fell to the ground in a sorry state. He felt a surge in his chest and vomited a mouthful of blood. He immediately rolled his eyes and fainted. Yun Shirshir was shocked. When Xiao Shui saw this, she could not help but be shocked. She took a step forward and wanted to bring Yun Shirshir back to her side. However, at that moment, she saw a man who was not tall but had a shocking aura slowly walk out from the crowd. The man stood still and scanned the surroundings with his eyes that were as sharp as a blade. His voice was thick and dignified. What kind of trash are you? Do you think you have the right to act rashly in my territory? When these words came out, He Lingxiang and the rest were so shocked that they immediately knelt on the ground. Their bodies were trembling and they did not dare to make a sound. The one who spoke was Lin Xiaojing, the leader of the Qingyang gang, one of the most powerful men in the capital. Speaking of Lin Xiaojing, his position was not shallow. He could be considered the leader of the Qingyang gang in Beijing. Now most of the organizations in Beijing were completely controlled by the Qingyang gang. Many management companies in the entertainment industry had some background in both the underworld and the underworld. The Qingyang gang supported several management companies. The headquarters of the Qingyang gang was located in the capital and had many branches. It had hundreds of thousands of members, which showed its influence. Lin Xiao was the head of such a gang, which meant that he was the highest leader of the gang. This area was nominally under his jurisdiction. Therefore, for someone to cause trouble in his territory, let alone in front of a big shot from the Mu family in the capital, this was an act of insubordination. He glanced at He Lingxiang Yuan, who was kneeling on the ground silently, and asked, "What's your name?" He Lingxiang was shocked. He was terrified of Lin Feng's threat. Suddenly he thought of something. He raised his head and carefully said, "Boss Lin. In fact, I am. Your voice is too soft. I can't hear you." Lin Xiaojing said impatiently. He Lingxiang closed his eyes and mustered his courage to raise his voice. "My name is He Lingxiang. May I ask?" "This is." He smiled apologetically as he carefully looked at the tall man who was surrounded by the crowd. Respect immediately appeared on Lin Xiaojing's face as he said to He Lingxiang, "Is Dishing Financial Group's chairman Mu someone of your status can inquire about?" He Lingxiang, who had always been arrogant, could not help but be shocked. He said incoherently, "Forgive me for being presumptuous, but I didn't know how to appreciate favors. I actually didn't recognize that this is Dishing Financial Group's chairman Mu." Chapter 114. He was trembling with fear when he was suddenly interrupted by an abrupt voice. "What's the matter? Why are there so many people at the entrance?" Lin Fengtian had just walked out of the audition venue when he vaguely heard a strange commotion downstairs. He hurried over, only to see such a scene. While he was still in shock, he caught sight of the slender figure in the crowd and said with a curious expression, Chairman Mu. What brings you here today? Mu Yaja glanced at him coldly, but did not bother with him. In such a big company like Huanyu, Lin Fengtian was, without a doubt, the most wily old fox. Unfortunately, this person was a little special and had some tricks up his sleeve. He was a rare talent, so Mu Yaja could not be bothered with him. Lin Fengtian chuckled. He turned his gaze and saw Yin Shishir, who was tightly protected by Xiao Shui, and understood what had happened. Brother Mu. Suddenly, a shy and sweet figure barged in. Everyone turned around and saw a well-dressed girl in an aqua blue pleated dress running toward Mu Yaja happily. She pushed away Yin Shishir, who was standing in front of Mu Yaja. Where did this woman come from to block Brother Mu? What an eyesore! She secretly glared at Yin Shishir before turning to face Mu Yaja with a charming smile. Brother Mu, why are you here? Did you specially come here to see me? Lu Jingtian, 20 years old, was the eldest daughter of the capital's military and political elite. She was also the top socialite of the upper class. The Muse and Lus had been on good terms for generations, so there was a rumor that Lu Jingtian was originally the crown princess that old Master Mu had his eyes on. Unfortunately, the concubine had feelings for him, and the man had no such intentions. The young master of the Mu family had watched her grow up, so the two had a close relationship. Lu Jingtian, the eldest daughter of the Lu family, had a crush on the young master of the Mu family. This was no secret in the capital's rich and powerful families. Mu Yaja took great care of Lu Jingtian, doting on her no matter how trivial the matter was. He treated her like his most beloved younger sister. However, to Mu Yaja, their relationship was just that. Lu Jingtian stared at him in a daze. The name Mu Yaja had left a deep imprint in her heart. Just hearing it made her heart go numb. How much did she love this man whom she had admired since she was young? Even in her dreams, she hoped that he would take a second look at her. Alas, his eyes seemed to be looking in Yin Shishir's direction, and she could not help but steal a few more glances at him. In her heart, she admitted that this girl was very beautiful. Huanyu Corporation controlled almost half of the entertainment industry. Having followed Mu Yaja around, she could be said to have seen countless people, and had seen many beautiful women. However, what she could not help but be jealous of was that this girl's looks were different from those who were vulgar. She was delicate, elegant, and natural, without a trace of impurity. It was as if all the beautiful words in the world could not be used to describe this girl's otherworldly beauty. She had overheard Lin Fengtian's words not far away, and she felt even more jealous. The reason why Lu Jingtian wanted to enter the entertainment industry was none other than to appear in Mu Yaja's sight more often. Lin Fengtian was the ace director she dreamed of befriending, but she seemed to have heard that this big shot was willing to lower himself and take the initiative to sign a contract with this girl. Chapter 115. At the thought of this, panic flashed across her heart. Seemingly wanting to establish her high and mighty status, she immediately turned to face Mu Yaja with a smile. Brother Mu, why are you ignoring me? Mu Yaja lowered his eyes slightly, and finally saw her for the first time with his slightly cold eyes. Director Lin is here today too. He's a judge. Why don't we have coffee together after this audition? Lu Jingtian naturally hooked her arm around his. Her coquettish tone sounded very intimate to outsiders. She deliberately raised her voice, for no other reason than to announce in front of everyone that she had a close relationship with the most respected young master of the Mu family, the most prestigious family in the capital. Earlier in the audition waiting room, there was actually a newcomer who did not know what was good for her. Now, she was silently announcing her illustrious status. In the crowd, Yin Na's eyes flashed with horror. This girl actually has connections with the rich and powerful of the upper-class society? Naturally, she did not know who Mu Yaja was, but she recognized the mayor of the capital. Now that she saw him standing respectfully behind that tall and handsome man, who was actually close to that girl, she could not help but wonder why he was so close to her. She could not help but shudder. Earlier in the waiting room, she seemed to have caused trouble for this girl. Could this Lu Jingtian be planning to take revenge on her? Mu Yaja naturally saw through her vanity, but he did not expose her. Your grandpa asked me to visit you. Hearing this, Yin Shishir's eyes darkened slightly. It turned out that this man was here to visit her. When Lu Jingtian heard this, her vanity was satisfied and she pretended to be angry. He must be here to let you talk about me again. Grandpa has always disapproved of me entering the entertainment industry, but I love acting. Brother Mu, this is my dream. Mu Yaja's lips curled into an elegant smile, but he did not say a word. Lu Jingtian continued, Brother Yaja, didn't you invest in this movie? Jingtian really wants to play the female lead. Mu Yaja took a step forward with Lu Jingtian following closely behind him. Behind them was a mighty entourage. The crowd gradually moved further and further away, just like an emperor in ancient times patrolling the land under his control, proud and noble. Let's go, sure, and the girl beside you. This girl I'll drive you, Lin Fengtian said. Everyone walked to the door. When Xiao Shui saw the shiny black Rolls-Royce Phantom, her soul almost left her body. Like a happy child, he circled the car a few times. Good heavens! Rich people. This car was an imported antique. Lin Fengtian, who was watching from the side, was stunned. This little girl. Brother Lin. Xiao Shui immediately pinched her orchid fingers and came up to him. Can I take a few selfies? She said as she pointed at the luxury car beside her. It's right beside this car. Sure, Lin Fengtian agreed. She immediately took out her phone and took a few selfies beside the car. She put on all kinds of coquettish expressions, but in the eyes of others, she was all kinds of flirtatious. All right. Get in the car first. Lin Fengtian said to Yin Shishir. Okay. Xiao Shui, on the other hand, was very excited. She happily got into the back seat first, leaving Yin Shishir behind. Yin Shishir could not help feeling a little flustered. Everyone got into the car one after another, but no one noticed the pair of eyes watching them from behind. Those eyes were filled with evil thoughts. Chapter 116. This Yin Shishir was really capable. But so what? Wouldn't it be more fun to sleep with a woman that the big boss had his eyes on? What kind of person was Mu Yaja? Why would he fall for a newcomer with no status or background? The entertainment industry was full of talents, and there was never a lack of beautiful women. With Mu Yaja's status, what kind of woman wouldn't come and go as he pleased? The women that Mu Yaja played with, the leftovers would be pretty good too. As he Lingxiang thought evilly, he fiercely clenched the stack of Yin Shishir's information in his hand. Suddenly, his thoughts were interrupted by a delicate voice from the side. Hello, may I ask if you are Director He Lingxiang? He Lingxiang turned around and saw Yin Na with no makeup on. Yin Na had just washed off all the makeup on her face, and it actually looked cleaner. Even though her face was still slightly swollen, it didn't stop others from judging her beauty. Yin Na's beauty was different from Yin Shishir's naivety and pure beauty. She was flirtatious, like a seductress who charmed the emperor in ancient times. If she were to play a character like Daji, she would definitely be pleasing to the eyes. She was petite and wasn't as tall as Yin Shishir. Her fair little face, coupled with her shy and timid appearance, made her look even more fragile. Yin Na had unintentionally catered to his tastes. He Lingxiang had recently liked this kind of taste. The moment he saw her, the look in his eyes changed. Seeing that he didn't say anything, Yin Na was naturally pleased. Under the attack of her expression, very few men could resist. So what if He Lingxiang had been on the battlefield for a long time? Wasn't he still tempted at the sight of women? Director He, my name is Yin Na. I'm a professional at an art school. I admire you very much. You are a very talented director. Oh right, I saw your movie Blood Rose last year. It's still the greatest movie in my heart. Blood Rose. Bad script, bad production, and bad reputation. How could a shoddy movie make her feel like she had found a treasure? The meaning of her words was self-evident. Yin Na wasn't someone from the entertainment industry. She only knew that He Lingxiang was of a similar status, but she didn't know about his misdeeds. Therefore, she didn't know how ignorant her actions were. How could He Lingxiang reject a woman who threw herself into his arms? It just so happened that he had nowhere to vent his anger this afternoon. He intimately approached her, grabbed her wrist, and pulled her into his arms. Under the cover of the tree, his hand wantonly attacked the softness in front of her chest. He lowered his head and bit her ear. Ah! Yin Na pretended to be flustered like a startled bunny, and her hands powerlessly pushed against his chest while the surprise in her eyes couldn't be concealed. Director He Yu. There was a faint fragrance on her body, which made He Lingxiang's blood rush to his head, and he was a little dazed. From the looks of it, this girl was still a virgin? He Lingxiang was not a man who would reject anyone, but he was very satisfied with Yin Na. Didn't you say that you admire me the most? He Lingxiang was very satisfied with her performance as he said the most vulgar words. You sent yourself to my doorstep and said these words. If others heard this, I'm afraid they would think that I have an ulterior motive. Yin Na kept the meaning of his words a secret. At this moment, the two of them were close together, and the changes in their bodies made each of them understand what the other wanted. She was a little afraid. The entertainment industry was like a tiger's den, so how could she not be afraid? However, when she thought of Yin Shishir's smug look and how she might be able to pass the audition, clinch the female lead role in this movie, and step into showbiz with glory, her heart was filled with jealousy. Jealousy was like an evil demonic branch, entrenching her heart, causing her to begin to use every means possible to achieve it. Director He, it's not convenient to talk here. Why don't? Yin Na smiled charmingly. Let's go somewhere else? Okay. He Lingxiang was naturally waiting for this sentence. Chapter 117. Huanyu Tower. A man stood by the window, his tall and straight figure proudly overlooking the rows of tall buildings outside. His pair of handsome eyes were deep and distant. Earlier, the board of directors had a heated confrontation over the female lead of The Green Apple. This time, the female lead had already been decided internally. The audition was just a publicity stunt for the movie's release. However, Lin Fengtian was absent from this meeting. Over the phone, his stance was very clear. He had taken a liking to Yin Shishir and had decided to support this newcomer with outstanding qualifications. The investors and producers were in an uproar when they heard this and voted against it unanimously. Lu Jingtian had already been decided as the female lead. How did an unknown newcomer appear out of nowhere and mesmerize Lin Fengtian? When Lin Fengtian heard that Lu Jingtian had been decided internally, he immediately said that he would not continue filming. The art of film, which he pursued, was now in such a foul state. He was so angry that he said that it had to be Yin Shishir. When the executive director said that he would not continue filming, the production team was collectively dumbfounded. They lined up to apologize to Lin Fengtian. The script was good, but Lin Fengtian's influence was not to be underestimated. If they lost him, this movie would be nothing. Without him, the box office appeal would collapse by half. The meeting ended on bad terms. Lu Jingtian, who was standing at the side, had also witnessed the actress's audition. Recalling that breathtakingly beautiful scene, she could not help but feel a little jealous. This person called Yin Shishir had skillfully portrayed Yin Xiaochuan's most essential innocence and beauty with her skillful acting. She was originally quite satisfied with her audition performance, but now that she saw it again, it was obvious who was better. Her crying scene was too pretentious. She's quite opportunistic, huh? Lu Jingtian said indignantly. She raised her head to look at Mu Yaja and asked in a half-aggrieved and half-tentative manner. Brother Mu, you'll definitely get the female lead role in this movie. It's for Jingtian, right? Mu Yaja lowered his head to look at her without saying a word. She quickly tugged at his arm and coquettishly said, Brother Mu, I really like this novel. It's my biggest dream to play the role of Yin Xiaochuan. Brother Mu, this is a small wish. You can't satisfy me? Mu Yaja pulled his hand out without a trace. His tone was calm but slightly indifferent. Jingtian, I dote on you because your grandfather asked me to. But for me, I have a clear distinction between public and private matters. The movie was released by Huanyu. I'll invest, but I won't ask about the main character. Brother Mu. Lu Jingtian's face flushed red as she choked on her words for the first time. She knew that the lead actor would be chosen by the director, but that was not the case in the entertainment industry. Usually in a movie, the director rarely had the right to speak. Even a director as arrogant as Lin Fengtian had to consider the investors of the film. Huanyu was this movie's biggest investor, so it was needless to say how much power the company had. Mu Yaja returned to his desk and said lightly, You're not a child anymore. I won't indulge you every time you act coquettishly. Brother Mu, Get out. Mu Yaja lost his patience and coldly ordered. Lu Jingtian was startled. She knew that he had lost his patience, so she did not dare to anger him further, and retreated resentfully. Just as she left, Aaron knocked on the door and entered. Chairman Mu. Mu Yaja leaned gracefully against the back of his chair, and looked at him with a pair of sharp eyes. Chapter 118. For some reason, the man's deep gaze made him shudder. He suddenly felt uneasy. Perhaps due to his guilty conscience, he did not even dare to raise his head. This man stood at the pinnacle of power. With a wave of his hand, he could turn the world upside down. His king-like aura seemed to be innate and intimidating. Heath, on the other hand, had betrayed this terrifying man until now he was still in a state of shock. If the president found out that the investigation report had been tampered with, he would personally eliminate him. Just as he was lost in thought, Mu Yaja looked up and called, Aaron. Yes, Mu Yaja asked with a half-smile. How long have you been with me? Boss, I've been with you for 4 years, he answered submissively. Mu Yaja replied faintly. I valued you back then because of your outstanding ability. You said you wouldn't let me down. Yes. I was groomed by you, boss, and I'll be loyal to you for the rest of my life. Mu Yaja nodded and raised his hand with an unfathomable expression. There was a group photo between his fingers. Aaron carefully took the photo, and saw the silhouette of a child walking out of a kindergarten with a small school bag. Despite the distance, the child's facial features were clearly presented in terms of angle and resolution. At first glance, the child was 99% similar to Mui Chen. Whether it was their eyebrows, facial features, or even their mannerisms, the two children seemed to be carved from the same mold. Could there be two identical leaves in the world? This photo was taken by a private investigator hired by Mu Yaja. When the old man received the photo, he rushed to Mu Yaja's office in a fit of rage. He pointed at him and fumed. Bastard! You have an illegitimate child outside? Are you trying to anger me to death? No wonder you're unwilling to marry Ro. Do you have other women outside? Mu Yaja was also stunned when he saw the photo. It was no wonder Grandpa Mu was so furious. This child was too similar to him. Especially that pair of eyebrows, which seemed to have perfectly replicated his silhouette. Bloodline was a very mysterious thing. It couldn't be hidden from anyone's eyes. There was no doubt that this was his flesh and blood, and he even disdained to use other methods to verify it. There would be a mystical connection between father and son. It could be said that it was telepathy, but it was hard to explain. It was a kind of bond that dissolved into the blood and bones. This child had been hidden by that woman for as long as 6 years? What were her intentions? Could it be that she coveted glory and wealth, and wanted to marry into a rich family with her son? But she didn't seem like a despicable woman. Mu Yaja had also investigated the woman's background. Alan had also given him an investigation report, and there was no problem. Unless someone had tampered with the report. Who could it be? Therefore, he couldn't help but suspect this personal assistant. Could it be that his closest assistant was disloyal to him? As Mu Yaja looked at him with a hint of scrutiny, Alan's back turned cold. It wasn't that he hadn't seen the president's methods before. He was extremely vicious. He didn't even dare to imagine what would happen to him if the president saw through his tricks. Alan, I'll give you one more chance. Give me a satisfactory answer. Chapter 119. As Aaron was leaving the office, he bumped into Mu Wanru, who was standing outside the door. Mu Wanru had been standing outside the door for a long time, and had overheard much of their conversation. Her face was now ashen, and she looked terrible. His expression changed slightly as he exclaimed, Ma'am, shut up. Mu Wanru glared at him fiercely. She went forward to cover his mouth, pushed him to the assistant's office, and quickly locked the door. Bang. Aaron stood there helplessly. Mu Wanru was trembling all over. With her back against the door, her body slid helplessly as if she had fallen into a state of great fear and uneasiness. Ma'am, are you all right? Aaron looked at her worriedly. Mu Wanru looked extremely disheveled. Her face was as dark as a sheet of white paper. What did he say to you? Did you tell him? She glared at him as if she was on the verge of drowning. The CEO asked me to reinvestigate Yin Shishir's identity. Everything, big or small, must be thoroughly investigated, including that and the child. Aaron looked at Mu Wanru again, only to see her face turn uglier. You can't. Mu Wanru's eyes were instantly piercing. You'll get me killed if you do this. Alan took a deep breath, and a complicated feeling resonated in his chest. I can't betray the CEO again. His face turned pale with pain, and his handsome face contorted. I've already betrayed him once. How will he know if you don't tell him? Mu Wanru was like a drowning person who had come back from the jaws of death. Her voice trembled with fear. If that child is really the CEO's flesh and blood, isn't it good to investigate it thoroughly? No. Why? He asked in confusion. Mu Wanru, of course, could not tell him why. Why? If the child's identity was found out, Yin Tianyu would be taken back to the Mu family as one of the future heirs of the Mu group. This woman would definitely rise in status, because of her son. She was Grandpa Mu's 1 in a million pregnant women. She had excellent conditions. What was even more frightening was that she had given birth to 2 sons for the Mu group. On the other hand, because of her congenital infertility, she was unable to give birth to a son or daughter for the Mu family. Therefore, her position as the young mistress of the Mu family was not secure. The rich and powerful families were deeply rooted and intertwined. If they did not have children to support them, they would not be able to consolidate their position. The only reason why she could do whatever she wanted in the Mu family was because of Grandpa Mu's love for her. However, no matter how hard she tried, she was still unable to enter Mu Yaja's heart. The only reason Mu Yaja agreed to marry her was because of Grandpa Mu's order. He could not go against it. However, Old Master Mu's health was deteriorating year by year. Now, in order to enjoy the rest of his life, Mu Yaja was slowly taking control of Dishing Financial Group. What if he was no longer around? Would she still have a place in the Mu family? Would she be chased out of the family just like that? By then, it was not impossible for Yin Shishir to rise to the top by relying on her son. The scariest thing was, if Grandpa Mu were to find out about Yin Tianyu's identity, he would definitely make him acknowledge his ancestors. Given his means, he would definitely investigate Yin Shishir's background thoroughly. If the incident from more than a decade ago was involved, what would happen when Grandpa Mu learned that she had snatched Yin Shishir's jade and had been impersonating her for more than a decade? Thinking of this, Mu Wanru shuddered. Don't investigate. If you do this, you'll destroy me. Mu Wanru covered her face haggard and sobbed helplessly. She was weeping like a pear blossom in the rain, but in her heart, she was viciously cursing. Chapter 120. D***. She was too slow. This Yin Shishir, B***tch. B***tch. Why did it have to be her? Why did it have to be her? Was she going to watch as the wealth and glory that was within her reach was snatched away by her? Looking at her pitiful appearance, Alan's heart ached as if it had been crushed. As a man, no one could reject a weak and helpless woman. Aaron, help me. Mu Wanru begged him. She leaned on his chest weakly and helplessly. Her hot tears dampened his shirt. I can't let that child return to the Mu family. Alan, I know you like me. This is the last time. Help me, okay? Mu Wanru's tears flowed down her cheeks. Alan's heart skipped a beat, and he looked at her in disbelief. She knew? They had been classmates in university for 4 years. Her gentleness, beauty, pride, and confidence had always been the most beautiful thing that he yearned for. He loved this girl from the bottom of his heart, but he had never shown it. Because from the beginning, he knew that she was a dream that he would never be able to reach in his life. He was so humble that he could not even confess his feelings to her. He could only look at her silently from afar. After graduating from university, he entered Dishing Financial Group and became Mu Yaja's personal assistant. It was only then that he realized that the man in her heart was as perfect as a god. Wanru, just this once. This is the last time. If you promise to help me, I'll do whatever you want me to do in the future. Mu Wanru begged again. Alan's brows furrowed. Clearly he was still struggling. Mu Wanru gritted her teeth. She placed her hands on his shoulders, stood on her tiptoes, and kissed him on the lips. Alan was shocked. His body was as stiff as a rock. Mu Wanru pressed her lips against his and said softly, Is this enough? Wanru, don't talk. Hug me. Mu Wanru kissed him on the lips again. Her seductive body was pressed against him, and her seaweed-like hair was tangled together. Mu Wanra's exquisite figure stretched out seductively. She was very coquettish. She usually took great care of her skin. Her exceptional beauty and sexy figure were enough to make any man's heart beat faster. Alan could no longer hold it in. He fell into the fatal trap of gentleness. He lost himself to it. He closed his eyes and followed the most honest thought in his heart. His hands hugged her shoulders, and he traced her charming back. In the office, an incestuous scene. However, neither of them noticed that in a hidden corner of the ceiling, there was a mini pinhole camera hidden in the ceiling. Asterisk in the evening, Guxingzi sent Yun Shishir home. Yun Shishir did not have a decent gown for tomorrow night's cocktail party. Therefore, Guxingzi gave her a gown. She was embarrassed to accept it, but Guxingzi felt that she was too polite and smiled. Silly girl, tomorrow night's cocktail party will be a special event. Many gold medal producers and directors from the film festival will be there. Don't tell me you want to wear this school uniform and parade around as my female companion? Yun Shishir did not know whether to laugh or cry at his words. All right, don't be so polite with me. If you can sign the contract successfully, remember to treat me to a meal. Guxingzi made a condition. Yun Shishir agreed readily. Well, 6 yuan worth of spicy hot pot. It was not that she could not afford it. Chapter 121. By the time Yun Shishir returned to the Yun residence to fetch Yu, it was already 8 p.m. She had already informed Yun Yeqing in advance, but the atmosphere in the living room was still tense. When Li Qin saw Yun Shishir return, she hurriedly went up to her. Have you seen your younger sister? She's still not back yet. I'm so worried. Why would I see her? Yun Shishir pretended to be confused. In fact, she had seen Yun Na today. However, this had nothing to do with her. She could not be bothered to report it to Li Qin. When Yun Yeqing saw her return, he hurriedly went up to her and asked about her well-being, which caused Li Qin to glare at him. Looking at Yun Shishir and thinking about her daughter who had yet to return home, she immediately exploded. Yun Yeqing, you're really a good father. You're so concerned about this wild seedling, but your biological daughter is still not back yet, and I don't see you asking more about her. Yun Yeqing's face turned ashen when he heard this. Who are you calling a wild seedling? Also, I'm worried that Nana isn't back yet. What are you talking about? The two of them started quarreling. Yun Shishir did not want to be involved in such a quarrel, and walked toward her room calmly. However, she was stopped by Li Qin behind her. Stop right there. Yun Shishir turned her head in a lukewarm manner. What's the matter? Li Qin noticed the exquisite packaging in her hand. Armani. How could she, who shopped in shopping malls all year round, not know about this international luxury brand? Her eyes almost popped out of their sockets. How did she have such an expensive item? Where did you get this dress? It's none of your business. With that, Yun Shishir walked into her room without looking back. Li Qin was so angry that she almost had a stroke. This wild lass was looking down on her more and more. What Armani? To me, it's just a cheap knockoff. That night, it suddenly rained. Yun Shishir decided to sleep over at the Yun residence, and went to bed early with Yu. At midnight, there was a sudden rainstorm outside the window. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. Yun Yeqing and Li Qin were worried when Yun Na did not return for a long time, so they decided to report the matter to the police. The two of them hurriedly prepared to rush over. But they heard a strange noise outside the door. They hurriedly rushed over, only to see Yun Na leaning against the door weakly. They did not know how long she had been standing outside the door. Her hair was drenched, her clothes were slightly messy, and her face was strangely flushed. Mom! She cried out in a low voice, her voice trembling as if she had suffered a great grievance. Then a line of tears flowed down her cheeks. Li Qin felt as if a knife was being twisted in her heart. What's wrong? Nana, come in first. Yun Na was helped into the living room, and leaned weakly against the back of the chair. Tears rolled down her cheeks like pearls from a broken necklace. Li Qin looked at her anxiously, her heart aching. Nana, what's wrong? Tell me who bullied you. Yun Na continued to weep but didn't say anything. Right now, her intestines were probably green with regret. This He Lingxiang looked dignified on the surface, but he was actually a beast in human clothing, and a beast among beasts. This afternoon, Lingxiang brought her to a private clubhouse. She thought that she had hooked up with a big tree and was feeling complacent. If she could gain his favor, she might be able to step into the entertainment industry with glory, and no longer have to look at Yun Shishir's eyes. Chapter 122. If she could rely on such a backer, her acting career could be said to be unstoppable. Yun Na naively thought that Lingxiang was bringing her to meet some producer. After all, he had a lot of connections. Little did she know that she had entered a wolf's den of debauchery. She did not want to recall what had happened tonight. She only remembered that before Lingxiang sent her home, he gave her an invitation and whispered in her ear, "I heard that Gu Xinghe has invited your sister to attend Huanyu's annual gala tomorrow night. You should attend this gala too." As he said that, a smile with ulterior motives appeared on his face. "Tomorrow night, you and your sister will serve me well. Don't worry, I'll give you benefits." Just imagining the scene of sex was enough to make Lingxiang impatient. The feeling of having two beautiful sisters together was self-evident. Yun Na suppressed her disgust and grievance and forced a smile. She did not want to be with Yun Shishir. What if it backfired and Lingxiang did not support her and Yun Shishir instead? She was like a slave today, serving the bosses one by one with a smile. She had suffered great humiliation, and did not want to suffer a double loss in the end. She whined, "You're so annoying. Director isn't it enough for me alone? Don't worry, little sweetheart, you're so hot. Of course, I'll dote on you the most. Don't worry, I won't fall in love with someone else." Yun Na only felt more at ease after Lingxiang's promise. Li Qin naturally did not know what had happened to her. Seeing her in a daze, she blurted out, "Daughter, have you gone for the audition?" Yun Yeqing raised his head in shock when he heard that. "Did you say that she went for an audition again?" She knew that she had let it slip and bit her lower lip resentfully. Yun Yeqing was furious and expected better from his daughter. "I told you to study hard, but you insisted on becoming an actress? Why? Did we not let you have enough to eat or not have enough clothes to keep you warm? Why do you have to ruin yourself like this?" As soon as Yun Na heard the word spoil, she immediately felt aggrieved to the point tears streamed down her face, and she immediately cried out unwillingly, "Dad, sister also went for the audition. Why don't you scold her?" "What?" Li Qin exclaimed in surprise. "She went for the interview too? How is this possible?" Her father defended her. "Your sister has always known her place. She won't step into showbiz." "Dad, you never believed me. If you don't believe me, you can ask her. Not only did she participate, she even passed. I saw her sit in a Rolls-Royce today. I don't know what tricks she used. Maybe she hooked up with some big boss." "Pa." Yun Na's face was slapped to the side. Covering her face, she turned to look at Yun Yeqing in shock. Her heart seemed to have broken into pieces. "Dad, you hit me?" Disappointment was written all over his face. "Nana, how can you say that about Shishir? She's your sister. How does your sister usually treat you? Since you were young, I've always let you have all the good food and fun things, but what about you now? Saying bad things about her behind her back. What big boss? Shishir isn't that kind of girl." "Why? Why didn't you scold her when she went for the audition? But when I went for the audition, you scolded me. Am I your biological daughter?" Yun Na screamed at her father, breaking down. Chapter 123. One day, the sun shone brightly in the morning. Yu woke up early and kicked Yun Shishir out of bed. "Mommy, wake up." Yu shook her awake. "Today is a special day. Get up and exercise to prepare for the cocktail party tonight." Yun Shishir was shocked. "Baby, how did you know that I'm going to the cocktail party tonight?" Yu looked at her coldly. "I also know that you're Gu Xing's female companion." Yun Shishir was dumbfounded. "How did you know?" Yu held his forehead helplessly. How could he let his stupid mommy know that he was the one who arranged all of this? No matter what, work hard and earn money to support the family. Yu's future wife will depend on you, mommy. He knew how boring work in the entertainment industry was. On the surface, the stars were shining brightly, but very few people knew how hard it was behind the scenes. Therefore, he had to urge his precious mommy to exercise and improve her physical strength. Sob. No, you don't get married. Just take care of mommy for the rest of my life. Yun Shishir hugged Yu tightly. The mother and son changed into casual clothes and ran a few kilometers in the morning. Huanyu Corporation's annual cocktail party was at 7 o'clock in the evening. After yesterday's embarrassment, Yun Na felt uncomfortable all over. When she woke up, there was no one in the house. She felt hungry and wanted to find something to eat in the fridge. However, when she passed by Yun Shishir's room, she stopped in her tracks and glanced at it silently. She was a little tempted. She was curious and suddenly wanted to know what was in Yun Shishir's exquisite bag. She heard from her mother that Yun Shishir didn't come home yesterday with an exquisite luxury bag. She couldn't help but recall what He Lingxiang told her yesterday. Gu Xingze invited her to Huanyu's cocktail party to be his female companion. Yun Na was extremely jealous when she heard that. Gu Xingze was a godlike figure in her heart. How could a bastard like Yun Shishir be worthy of being Gu Xingze's female companion? The more she thought about it, the more jealous she became. She did not know what kind of vixen this Yun Shishir was. What right did she have to gain the favor of so many producers and directors? She had worked so hard and sacrificed so much just to get the chance to attend tonight's gala. Yet she had done nothing and was just trying to curry favor with the rich and powerful. At most, she was just a plaything for the rich and powerful for a while. Once they got tired of her, they would throw her away. Get rich rich? What wishful thinking. Yun Na walked to the door and tried to open it. The door wasn't locked. This idiot was still so unguarded. She thought proudly and walked in confidently. Yun Shishir's room was very clean. The bedsheets were neat, the quilt was folded neatly, and the desk was neatly tidied. With a light sniff, the room was still filled with an elegant fragrance. Chapter 124. Yun Na sat in front of the desk and rummaged through the drawers. They were all textbooks, notes, pens, erasers, and a framed photo of her with her father. She flipped through them again. They were all extracurricular exercise books and exercise books. Just looking at them gave her a headache. She muttered softly, "Bookworm." After rummaging through them for a long time, she did not see anything good. Turning around, Yun Na wandered to her shabby wardrobe again. She opened the wardrobe and saw old clothes that had been washed white, until she saw the exquisite handbag. Armani, it was actually Armani. She flipped it out and saw that it was an exquisite and luxurious gown. Oh my God, this was Armani's latest product released this spring. Yun Na often shopped in shopping malls, so she knew some of the expensive brands. She liked to dress up, but those clothes were too expensive. Her mother did not allow her to buy them because she felt that it was too extravagant. However, looking at Yun Shishir's gown, who gave it to her, Yun Na had seen this gown at a fashion show on TV before. She liked it very much. However, the price tag of 100,000 yuan shocked her. She did not expect Yun Shishir to have this gown. An unknown jealousy was slowly twisting in her heart. Why? Why was she treated so well? Why was she chosen by so many directors and given such a beautiful and expensive gown? She was clearly such a lowly B***starred, but she was treated so well by her father when she came back. One had to know that ever since she was young, her father had never doted on her like he did on Yun Shishir. This B***starred had snatched away the love that originally belonged to her. As Yun Na thought of this, she suddenly felt indignant. She took out the gown and changed in front of the mirror. Looking at the beautiful gown in the mirror, Yun Na curled her lips in satisfaction. She twirled a few times happily, and her heart was overjoyed. Yun Shishir did not deserve such a good gown at all. Only she deserved to have it. Yun Shishir was a lowly Cinderella, and she was the princess. She was worried that she did not have a decent gown for tonight's cocktail party. Yun Na folded the clothes neatly. Out of the corner of her eye, she caught sight of an exquisite little box. A brocade box that seemed to be jewelry was quietly placed in the corner of the wardrobe. Out of curiosity, she reached out to take the box and carefully opened it. A magnificent and faint blue light flashed before her eyes. She often paid attention to jewelry magazines. This was the Vicomte from Van Cleef & Arpels Secret Garden series. It was one of a kind in the world. Yun Na sucked in a breath of cold air in shock. In the depths of her pupils, the word Vicomte lay quietly in the brocade box, emitting a bright and dazzling brilliance. So beautiful. So beautiful. It looked like a sapphire necklace, giving people a cold and elegant feeling. The necklace was actually made of countless small diamonds connected together. Such a necklace must be worth a lot of money. How could Yun Shirshir have such expensive jewelry? Such a beautiful necklace for her? What a pity. Yun Na's eyes flashed with jealousy. Why did it have to be her? Why did she have to be the one to get such a beautiful necklace? How could she be so lucky? Chapter 125. She knew that she couldn't take it away. Yun Shirshir would find out about this necklace sooner or later. However, as she gazed at the dazzling sapphire, Yun Na took a deep breath of cold air. After hesitating for a long time, she gritted her teeth hatefully and gripped the box tightly. She casually tidied up the wardrobe, returned to her previous appearance, and rushed out of the door. Yun Na was still nervous and uneasy when she entered her bedroom. She felt a little guilty, and her heart was beating like thunder. She locked the necklace in the wardrobe, and only then did she calm down. She comforted herself in her heart. Anyway, Yun Shirshir wasn't wearing it. It was a pity, so she might as well give it to her. Even if she saw this necklace in the future, there were so many similar necklaces in the world. What reason could Yun Shirshir have to say that she stole her necklace? Anyway, it was her necklace. She could just insist on it. She could just say that she bought the exact same necklace. Anyway, she just liked this necklace. She would dress up and attend the cocktail party tonight. She would definitely amaze everyone. Then, she wouldn't have to care about Yun Shirshir's attitude anymore. She must succeed. However, Yun Na still felt unusually guilty because she had done something wrong. She was afraid that Yun Shirshir would find out when she came back. She hurriedly took her clothes and necklace, called He Lingxiang, and calmly left the house. Yun Shirshir returned home from her morning exercise. She planned to tidy up and go to the cocktail party. However, when she returned to her room, she found that it was a mess. The gown and necklace she had prepared were all gone. She panicked for a moment. Yu couldn't help but be shocked. He even suspected that a thief had broken into the house. However, he only understood when he saw the earrings that Yun Na had unintentionally left on the floor. His eyes couldn't help but turn cold. There was no lock in the room. He originally thought that Yun Na would learn from her mistake and wouldn't dare to go against his mother, who knew that he would still be so bold. The phone screen suddenly lit up. Yun Shirshir saw that it was an unfamiliar number. She hesitated for a moment before answering the call. The phone screen suddenly lit up. She saw that it was an unfamiliar number. She hesitated for a moment before answering the call. Hello. Shirshir, are you home? Gu Xing's gentle voice came from the other end of the phone. Yeah, I'm at home. Gu Xingzi said, okay. Do you live in Ping'an district? I'll be right there. Yes. However, something happened. Yun Shirshir rubbed her forehead with a headache. She looked back at her room and sighed helplessly. I'm really sorry. I might not be able to attend tonight's party. What happened? For some reason, even Gu Xingzi did not notice the tension in his words. Today he was in a good mood. He was even looking forward to tonight's banquet. Now that he heard that Yun Shirshir was not going to the banquet, he felt an inexplicable sense of loss. What happened? Yun Shirshir replied. My gown. I don't know where it went, and the necklace you borrowed. Lost? I'm not sure. When I got home, my room was in a mess. I was careless and forgot to lock the door. Gu Xingzi heaved a sigh of relief when he heard that. Oh, I thought it was something serious. His manager, Qin Zhou, who was eavesdropping on the conversation, couldn't help but cry out in frustration. Chapter 126. Oh, my little ancestor. That secret garden necklace is the treasure of Empress. Great-grandmother, how could you lose it? This necklace had a long history. He had mustered up his courage to borrow it from the director behind the CEO's back. If the boss were to find out, he would be in deep trouble. Forget it, let her come over first. It's still early. It's not too late to pick out another gown from Empress. Qin Zhou made a decision at the side. Gu Xing's car was parked at the entrance of Ping'an district. The extended, luxurious Bentley attracted the attention of the neighbors in the neighborhood. In a slum like this, these commoners had never seen such a luxurious car before. For a moment, They crowded around the car and pointed at it with envy in their eyes. Yin Shirshir hurriedly got into the car and drove off. The neighbors couldn't help but start whispering to each other as they looked at the back of the car. Isn't that the child from the Yin family? Oh, she's called Yin Shirshir. I heard that she's Yin Yeqing's illegitimate daughter. Illegitimate daughter? Why did I hear that she's the child of Yin Yeqing and his ex-wife? Who knows if she's Yin Yeqing's biological daughter? How does she resemble Yin Yeqing? Sigh, that old Yin has been cuckolded for who knows how many years. He's even raising a bastard child for someone else. The Bentley sped all the way to the busiest shopping mall in the capital. Empress was a luxury fashion brand favored by the capital's wealthy socialites and movie queens. The interior of the store was luxuriously decorated. From the top-notch handmade gowns from Milan Fashion Week to a series of luxury brands from Italy, Empress was the capital's most eye-catching fashion icon. Therefore, not just anyone could step into this place. Even a third-rate celebrity could not cross such a high threshold. Therefore, when Qin Zhou solemnly handed Yin Shirshir over to the image director, Alan, this woman who had always served the celebrities and socialites, had a dazed look on her face. Manager Qin, what's going on? Alan, this is Xing's female companion. Qin Zhou smiled, the meaning in his eyes self-evident. With Qin Zhou's explanation, Alan naturally understood. However, she was very puzzled. With Gu Xing's status, why would he let such an unknown girl be his female companion? As the chief image director, she often went in and out of the upper class. At this level, she knew the background of all the noble ladies in the capital. However, she was a little confused as to the name of this little girl. No matter what, since she was Gu Xing's female companion, she naturally had to put in some effort. Okay, leave it to me. As Alan spoke, he turned to look at Yin Shirshir gently and said with a smile, Miss Yin, please follow me. Qin Zhou suddenly saw a closed VIP room and looked around curiously. Alan, do you have any guests? As soon as he finished speaking, he saw the door of the VIP room open from the inside. A man in a neat suit walked out of the room. Gu Xingzi heard the commotion and subconsciously turned his head to take a look, but his body suddenly froze at that moment. It's her. In the next moment, Gu Xingzi's handsome face froze. Chapter 127. Mr. Xiao? Why are you here? Qin Zhou looked a little surprised. Xiao Dong turned his head and nodded at Qin Zhou with a fake smile. Then a beautiful and luxurious figure walked out of the room. At that moment, the huge dressing room seemed to have become luxurious and magnificent. Han Yuyan was wearing a gorgeous long gown. Her makeup was exquisite and delicate. Her eyes were bright and beautiful. It was as if they could steal people's souls. Yin Shirshir swept her gaze over as well, and her breath caught in her throat. So beautiful. She didn't pay much attention to the entertainment industry, so she didn't recognize the beautiful woman in front of her. She was one of the 4 most popular actresses, Han Yuyan. Han Yuyan was currently the most popular actress in the Star Altar. She was a valuable A-list actress. When she was 16, she debuted with the youth movie Bamboo Dragonfly. She was called a pure and innocent girl right after her debut. She was sought after by millions of fans and became famous in the film industry. Bamboo Dragonfly was director Lin Fengtian's first film. With this film, Lin Fengtian won the Best Director Award at the 100 Flowers Film Festival and the Golden Badge Awards. At that time, the male lead, Gu Xingzi, was called the National School Hunk because of this film. Han Yuyan was called the National First Love and became the goddess in the hearts of many young men. Since then, Lin Fengtian had also made many newcomers famous. His fame was at its peak. The female lead in his movie was known as Lady Feng. However, no matter how many actresses he made famous, they could not be compared to Han Yuyan's fame. Han Yuyan's position in the domestic film industry was unparalleled. No one could compete with her. At that time, Gu Xingzi and Han Yuyan were called the most compatible couple on the screen. They worked together in a few TV dramas and movies. There was even a rumor that the two fell in love with each other and started dating secretly. However, not long after, Han Yuyan quickly became one of the 4 young masters of the capital. She fell in love with the young master of the Xiao Financial Group. There were rumors in the circle that Han Yuyan came from a poor family and was extremely vain. She was not as pure as she appeared to be. Rumor had it that when Gu Xingze was going through the pain of losing his mother, Han Yuyan had been by his side the whole time. She had even turned down many movie offers and stayed by Gu Xingze's side. Rumor had it that Han Yuyan had indeed dated Gu Xingze for a period of time. However, she had only taken a fancy to Gu Xingze's resources and background. Their relationship had ended without any results. There were also rumors that Han Yuyan was deeply in love with Gu Xingze, while Gu Xingze only treated Han Yuyan as his younger sister. It was only after Han Yuyan had climbed up the ladder that the two of them parted ways. Alan quickly walked over to Han Yuyan and praised her with a smile. "Miss Han, you look beautiful in that outfit. You will definitely be the center of attention at tonight's banquet." Han Yuyan was elated when she heard that. However, she pretended to be reserved. She smiled sweetly at Xiao Dong in the mirror and asked, "Xiao Dong, what do you think of my outfit?" She had just finished her sentence when she didn't hear a reply for a long time. Han Yuyan was slightly annoyed. She immediately looked at Xiao Dong with a reproachful expression. However, she saw that he was staring at Yun Shishi's back as she walked into the fitting room. When their eyes met just now, he inexplicably felt that this girl was surprisingly familiar. Chapter 128. "Xiao Dong, what are you looking at?" Han Yuyan called out to him unhappily. "Nothing." Xiao Dong quickly turned around and looked at her. She was dressed splendidly, but there was no real surprise in his eyes. "Yuyan, you look beautiful in this dress." Han Yuyan did not notice the strangeness in his words. She was immersed in his praise and swayed her body proudly in front of the dressing mirror. Qin Zhou looked coldly at the pair of despicable people and snorted at Gu Xingze. "Humph. His late wife's body is still warm, and he has already changed a few new lovers. It's not that I want to say this, but the young masters of rich families are really pushovers. I'm afraid Meng Xiaolan won't be able to rest in peace." Xiao Dong was originally married, and Han Yuyan was the third party. Their extramarital relationship had been very low-key. Not long ago, Xiao Dong's wife passed away in a car accident, and Han Yuyan finally succeeded. "Don't poke your nose into other people's business." Gu Xingze was looking at a gown when his eyes suddenly fixed on a gorgeous red gown. This gown was designed by the internationally renowned designer, Helen Swift. It was elegant red, with a light shoulder gauze and soft silk. It was exquisite, and the curves were perfect. The fluffy hem of the gown extended from the waist down. Beautiful, so beautiful. Gu Xingze had always had high standards for beauty, and his taste in fashion was not bad. "This one," Gu Xingze ordered briefly. Alan immediately walked over and took a look, but shook his head tactfully. "Xingze, this gown is the treasure of our store." Was he sure he wanted to give this gown to that unknown girl? Wouldn't that be a waste? Moreover, the designer of this gown had said that not all Asian women could do it. She saw that the girl's body was a little thin, and she might not be suitable. Moreover, even if she was suitable, if other socialites saw it, they would definitely make a fuss. After all, this gown had never been worn by anyone before. Many socialites and actresses had wanted it, but none had succeeded. Han Yuyan was also attracted by their conversation. She looked over and blushed slightly when she saw Gu Xingze. No female celebrity in the industry could resist Gu Xingze's charm. It was the same even for Han Yuyan, who was the A-list heavenly queen. She had once loved him deeply, but he was heartless. She had been deeply in love with him for 4 whole years. She elegantly lifted the hem of her dress and walked over. Seeing his deep gaze on the gown, she reminded him softly, "Xingze, just now, I also took a fancy to this gown. But the director said that this piece of clothing is the treasure of Empress. It's priceless. Even I was rejected." In other words, which woman was qualified to wear the clothes that even she couldn't wear? Gu Xingze acted as if he didn't see her. He said to Alan, "This one. Unlock it." Han Yuyan was annoyed that she had been completely ignored. It wasn't until Xiao Dong coughed softly behind her with a displeased expression that she turned around awkwardly. However, she saw that the man's gaze was slightly cold. Only then did she realize that she had lost her composure. "Xingze, this shirt." Gu Xingze didn't listen to her explanation. When a piece of clothing is designed, it has to be complemented by a beautiful person. "Alan, don't you believe in my taste?" Alan naturally couldn't refuse. He quickly asked his assistant to unlock the display window and ordered someone to take out the gown and send it to Yun Shirshir's fitting room. Chapter 129. Qin Zhou's heart was filled with anticipation. He had also taken a liking to the dress and wondered how stunning Yun Shirshir would be in it. Yun Shirshir quickly changed into the dress and Alan brought her into the dressing room. Xiaodong initially wanted to leave, but Han Yuyan insisted. She wanted to see how capable this young lady was to be able to bring out the aura of the dress. Makeup, styling, accessories, high heels. It was not easy for a woman to dress up. Xiaodong and Han Yuyan were already impatient, but Gu Xingze was patiently reading a fashion magazine on the sofa. The door to the dressing room suddenly opened, and Yun Shirshir gracefully strode out with her gown in hand, attracting everyone's attention. Amidst Qin Zhou's amazement, Gu Xingze put down the magazine in his hand and saw Alan carefully pushing Yun Shirshir in front of him with a face full of admiration. Xingze, look, are you satisfied? Alan continued to praise her as he spoke. I really didn't expect Miss Yun to be able to bring out the aura of the dress perfectly. Miss Yun is the most elegant lady I've ever seen. If Miss Helen sees her, she'll definitely like her. Gu Xingze looked at Yun Shirshir, and with just one glance he could not help being attracted to her. He had been in the entertainment industry for many years and had seen countless people. However, at this moment, he couldn't help but marvel at the wonder and beauty of the creator. Beautiful. Extremely beautiful. Yun Shirshir stood with her hands on her waist, looking noble and elegant. The red dress accentuated her exquisite and graceful figure. The soft satin clung tightly to her body, making her look sexy but not revealing. At the same time, it understated the nobility and restraint of the aristocracy. This was a dress that combined the mysterious sexiness of the East with the noble and elegant elements of Europe. It was tailor-made by a top designer and a top designer. This dress was worth a lot. Alan's evaluation was that Yun Shirshir perfectly brought out the value of this dress. Even Gu Xingze couldn't help but be mesmerized. He couldn't look away for a long time. As a result, Yun Shirshir couldn't help but blush as he sized her up. Alan snickered in his heart. Although Second Master Gu usually looked cold and aloof, he was still a man after all. Furthermore, Yun Shirshir was as beautiful as a queen. Any man would find it hard to resist her. Very beautiful. Gu Xingze admired her for a long time, and commented from the bottom of his heart. It was a simple word, but it couldn't hide his amazement. Yun Shirshir smiled faintly. She didn't seem to be overly proud of herself because of his comment. She looked at Qin Zhou respectfully and politely. Qin Zhou nodded even more diligently. Shirshir? Thank you. Yun Shirshir smiled and elegantly turned around to look at herself in the mirror. She completely ignored the burning gaze from the side. Xiaodong didn't expect that there would be a woman who was so beautiful. At this moment, all his attention was on her. The dress was beautiful, but what was even more beautiful was Yun Shirshir's noble and restrained aura. Any man would be mesmerized by her. And he was no exception. Han Yuyan's eyes reddened. A woman's jealousy was very strong. She was like a proud peacock. She was originally proudly spreading her tail, but when she saw her territory being conquered, she couldn't accept it. Chapter 130. She was originally the center of attention, but now, no one in the hall was looking at her. She was like a doll that had lost its love and was mercilessly thrown aside. Han Yuyan tugged at Xiaodong's sleeve, feeling wronged. Darling, I also want this dress, she muttered softly. Buy it, I want to wear it to the gala today. If I wear this dress, I'll definitely be prettier than this girl from God knows where. For a long time the man did not respond. Han Yuyan raised her head in dissatisfaction, and saw that Xiaodong was also staring at Yun Shirshir. His eyes were filled with amazement, admiration, and some unknown emotions. She looked even angrier and her tone became unhappy. Xiaodong. Yes. He came back to his senses and lowered his head to look at her. Han Yuyan did not say anything else this time, and only stared coldly at the dress. Buy it. Xiaodong hesitated for a moment. In his heart, he had already decided that no one other than this beautiful girl in front of him could wear this dress. However, looking at Han Yuyan's weak and aggrieved expression, he took a deep breath and walked forward. Director, how much is this dress? I want it. Alan looked a little embarrassed and did not know how to answer for a moment. Gu Xingze had spoken first, so she could not afford to offend him. After all, Miss Yun was indeed stunning in this dress. If she rejected Xiao Dong, then she could not afford to offend him. Gu Xingze only stared at Yun Shishi's back, and did not even look at him as he sneered. Director Xiao, this dress is not something you can afford. Xiao Dong looked angry. Gu Xingze, what do you mean by that? What do I mean? Gu Xingze curled his lips in disdain. I'm telling you clearly that I want this dress. Xiao Dong snorted coldly. Although Gu Xingze was a heavenly king, he was still a piece of trash in the entertainment industry. To put it bluntly, what was the difference between him and an actor in ancient times? He turned around and asked Alan directly, name a price for this dress. Qin Zhou's temper flared as he teased. This gown is priced at 5 million yuan during the fashion week. Mr. Xiao, are you that generous? Xiao Dong didn't even bat an eyelid. 5 million. I'll take it. Qin Zhou raised a finger. Our Xingze is offering 10 million. We'll take it. You. He was furious and blurted out, I'll pay 20 million. As expected of Chairman Xiao. Generous, so generous. Qin Zhou smirked. But Xingze has taken a liking to this gown. It won't be a problem for him to fork out 30 million yuan. 50 million. Xiao Dong slammed the table. Qin Zhou was speechless. Han Yuyan, who was standing at the side, saw the surprise on everyone's face and laughed secretly. The man she had hooked up with was the future owner of the Xiao Enterprise. He was rich and powerful. Even though Gu Xingze had been in the entertainment industry for 10 years, he was still just a celebrity. How could he compare with Xiao Dong? Alan's face was also a little embarrassed. He only said faintly, I'm very sorry, Mr. Xiao. Since young Master Gu has taken a fancy to this gown, he definitely won't let anyone else have it. Master Gu? What did that mean? Why? He's just a small celebrity. Qin Zhou frowned slightly and retorted mercilessly. Mr. Xiao, please be more respectful with your words. Our Xingze isn't someone a small business supported by a woman can afford to offend. The Xiao Enterprise wasn't as powerful as it was now. Xiao Dong was a man of striking appearance. Under his father's arrangement, he married the daughter of the wealthy Meng family. With the support of the Meng family, the Xiao Enterprise was established today. You. Xiao Dong was furious. How dare a small manager look down on him and insult a company with hundreds of millions of assets as a small business? Then he suddenly realized something. Young Master Gu? Why did Alan address Gu Xingze as Young Master Gu? Chapter 131. Did he mean that he was a nouveau riche and Gu Xingze was a real aristocrat? Qin Zhou was Huanyu Entertainment's ace manager. His ability to spout nonsense was top-notch. It was as if his mouth had been poisoned, and every word he said was a gem. Gu Xingze was still a pure young man when he was with him. Now, under his influence, he had become a black-bellied person. Xiao Dong was so angry that he almost had internal bleeding. However, what he said was the truth and he could not refute it. Yun Shishi stood in front of the dressing mirror. The smile on her face froze for a moment. The atmosphere was too awkward. Gu Xingze looked at him coldly. You don't deserve to fight with me. Xiao Dong was furious. Just as he was about to speak, a sudden voice interrupted him. It's so lively today. A woman's arrogant voice suddenly came from outside the door. Everyone's faces froze and they looked at the door. Mu Wanru was wearing a well-tailored black dress, which made her look elegant and capable. When everyone looked at the man standing behind her, they were all stunned. The man stood behind her. He was wearing a tailored suit. His hands were in his pockets. His tall and slender figure was domineering. He looked like an elite of the empire. He looked very young. To others, he looked to be around 25 years old. However, he had a mature temperament. This kind of maturity was not a simple appearance. It was a steadiness that came from the inside out. He looked like a king who could pass judgment on the world. He was calm and unruffled. Especially that pair of deep and charming eyes that were hidden under the light. Paired with that angular face, just a glance was enough to make one's soul tremble. Such a man stood under the magnificent wall lamp. He was arrogant and oppressive. Even Gu Xingze's aura was suppressed by him. Everyone had different expressions. especially Yin Shirshir. Her face, which was originally exquisitely made up, turned pale. She looked gloomy as she hid behind Gu Xingze. The man saw her immediately. A strange look flashed across his eyes. However, it quickly disappeared. Beside him was a boy in a small suit. His hair was neatly combed, but his handsome face was cold and unruly. It was him. Xiao Yichen. Yin Shirshir's gaze fell on the child without blinking, and her lips began to tremble. She bit down hard on her lips and suddenly met Xiao Yichen's gaze. In a moment of confusion, she turned her face away from him. Xiao Yichen felt increasingly strange. This woman is really strange. Why did she look so unnatural when she saw him? She seemed to be avoiding him? Everyone had different expressions when they saw little Munchkin. Mu Yichen was the little crown prince of the Mu group. However, Mu Yaja was very protective of him. Even the experienced paparazzi could not catch Mu Yichen's trace. No one had ever seen Xiao Yichen's face in person. However, there were still rumors in the circle that Xiao Yichen was not the biological son of Mu Wanru and Mu Yaja. Mu Wanru had been diagnosed with congenital infertility. She had sought treatment everywhere and even tried IVF, but to no avail. The doctor said that she had lost the chance to be a mother in this lifetime. If she blindly tried IVF, her body would collapse due to the pain. Mu Wanru was heartbroken and had no choice but to accept reality. Xiao Yichen's biological mother was someone else. Even though this matter was kept under wraps, there were still insiders who leaked the news. Mu Wanru was furious because of this. Chapter 132. When Qin Zhou and the rest saw little Munchkin, they were surprised. For the past 6 years, young Master Mu had kept him well protected and never allowed him to be exposed to the media. Why was he wearing a British-style Armani suit? Was he planning to let the young heir show his face at the cocktail party? What surprised Qin Zhou even more was that, at first glance, he found the boy's facial features to be very familiar, as if he had seen them somewhere before. Qin Zhou snapped out of his daze and turned to look at Yin Shirshir in surprise. However, she lowered her head and bit her lip. She looked very helpless. Her brows were tightly knitted, and she hid herself behind Gu Xingze. Her left hand hugged her right arm in a defensive posture. If one were to look at her and Xiao Yichen separately, it would be difficult to make the connection. However, now that the two of them were facing each other, it was easy to make a comparison. If Mu Wanru wasn't Xiao Yichen's biological mother, Qin Zhou might have doubted it. However, now that Xiao Yichen was standing in front of him, it was a stark contrast. Although blood ties were mysterious, they couldn't fool anyone. Heredity was an even more mysterious thing. When Xiao Yichen and Mu Wanru stood together, they didn't look like mother and son. However, when he stood together with Yin Shirshir, they looked like biological children. Qin Zhou's eyes darted back and forth between Yin Shirshir and little Yichen. His gaze was somewhat secretive. Gu Xingze sensed Qin Zhou's scrutinizing gaze on Yin Shirshir and Xiao Yichen. He shot him a warning look. Qin Zhou obviously received his warning signal and pursed his lips. He didn't know, but Gu Xingze couldn't calm down for a long time. Like everyone else, he had never seen the young master of the Mu family. This was the first time they were meeting. Unlike everyone else, he had seen the child beside Yin Shirshir. He looked very similar to the young master of the Mu family. It was as if they were cast from the same mold. No one would believe that they weren't biological brothers. He was more shocked and confused than anyone else. The situation suddenly froze. The atmosphere was so quiet that it was as if it had been frozen. Alan was the first to react. He greeted the man respectfully. Chairman Mu. Chairman Mu. Xiao Dong also came back to his senses. He restrained his anger and greeted Mu Yaja respectfully. Chairman Mu, how have you been? Unlike his earlier arrogance toward Gu Xingze, Xiao Dong's attitude took a 360-degree turn this time. His bearing was dignified and his face was respectful. Although Gu Xingze was famous, he was after all, he was a celebrity. Mu Yaja was. The Mu's consortium was a big business. Even a small subsidiary company was far more powerful than the Xiaos. He could ignore Gu Xingze. Mu Yaja, however, could not. Han Yiyan had never seen Mu Yaja before. The heir of the Mu group had always been mysterious and unpredictable. News about the Mu family had always been groundless. However, she also knew how to act according to the situation. Seeing that even the arrogant Xiaodong was respectful to this man, she immediately put on an elegant demeanor. She put on a perfect smile and looked at Muyaja charmingly. Xiaodong saw that Muyaja did not respond. He took a step forward and extended his right hand. Chairman Mu, do you still remember me? Chairman Mu. Could it be the rumored most mysterious wealthy family in the capital? The Mu family? Han Yuyan listened on the side and cursed in her heart. Who else could make the arrogant Xiaodong put on a humble front to please a noble and respectfully address him as young Master Mu, except for the Mu family in the capital? Muyaja nodded and looked at him. Compared to Xiaodong's flattering face, he still had a cold expression on his face. You are. Xiaodong's face froze. A nervous smile appeared on his face. Chairman Mu, have you forgotten? We met during the acquisition of Meng's enterprise. I've forgotten. Muyaja clearly did not have the patience to listen to his explanation as he brushed past him. Xiaodong did not have time to withdraw his hand and Han Yuyan was still smiling elegantly. The scene was extremely awkward. Qin Zhou could not help but snort. He muttered, "You think too highly of yourself. You're just a nouveau riche. How dare you try to climb up the social ladder of a wealthy family?" His voice was very low, as if he was talking to himself, but he deliberately said it for Xiaodong to hear. Xiaodong's face turned green, and Han Yuyan's face was not any better. She was so embarrassed that her face turned red. Xiaodong had put on an extremely respectful attitude, but he had been completely ignored. Xiaodong was also very angry. What an arrogant man. Muyaja walked to Gu Xingze. There was a flaw in his cold expression. Two men. One was mature and arrogant. The other was gentle. One was extremely handsome. The other was elegant and handsome. However, Muyaja was taller than Gu Xingze. Therefore, it was inevitable that he looked down on him. In comparison, Gu Xingze's aura was slightly weaker. Muyaja's lips curled into a contemptuous and arrogant smile. The nonchalant smile on his face did not reach his eyes. So beautiful. He turned to look at Yun Shishir, who was behind Gu Xingze. She was dressed to the nines. His eyes were filled with surprise. He had seen this woman before. Her beauty was like a lotus flower in clear water. Her temperament was elegant and otherworldly. However, now she looked noble and elegant in the gorgeous gown. The red and coquettish gown accentuated her graceful figure. The long gown was like a blooming rose. It was sexy and charming. At this moment, she looked like a beautiful aristocrat. Muyaja's lips curled into a smile as he added, "This gown." Whether a gown was beautiful or not depended on the person wearing it. However, Yun Shishir was a little afraid of this powerful man. She could not help but take a few steps back toward Gu Xingze. Her small, jade-like hand could not help but grip the corner of Gu Xingze's shirt. Muyaja noticed this small movement. This proud and arrogant man was slightly displeased at this moment. Xiao Yichen stood aside and blinked. He felt that this woman was a little strange. She looked so timid, just like a little deer. However, Xiao Yichen felt that this woman was really beautiful from the bottom of his heart. She was dressed in a luxurious red gown. It was especially elegant and noble. She was beautiful, but at the same time, she gave him a strange feeling. He felt like he had seen this woman somewhere before. Faintly, some fragmented dreams appeared in his mind. He could not remember them at the moment, but he felt that this woman was so familiar. So familiar. It was as if there was some kind of deep bond between the two of them. This feeling was indescribable, but it felt very close. When he saw her for the first time, she did not feel unfamiliar. She even gave him an inexplicable warmth. This kind of warmth was too unfamiliar, but it was fascinating. He had never felt it even from his mother. Xiao Yichen tilted his head. His mind was a little messy. His dearest mommy was standing right next to him, but he felt so distant. An unfamiliar woman was standing in front of him, but he could feel her gentleness. Xiao Yichen pursed his lips and shook his head. Don't let your imagination run wild. Mu Wanru looked at Yun Shishir and saw the gown that was so beautiful that it was difficult to look at it directly. She felt even more dazzled. Yun Shishir, who was standing in front of Muyaja, looked like a fairy queen. She was luxurious and elegant, but she was just a commoner. How could she have the right to step in here? Empress was the fashion symbol of the aristocratic circle. How could a commoner be so ignorant as to invade her territory? Furthermore, she was in such a glamorous position. Wasn't this a provocation to her? Alan! Mu Wanru shouted in a low voice. Alan immediately smiled respectfully and said, "Yes, Miss Mu." Since when did Empress welcome a lowly commoner like her? Mu Wanru pointed at Yun Shirshir arrogantly. Her voice was cold as if she was driving away a lowly beggar. Alan's face immediately looked a little awkward, but he cursed in his heart. "Io, if you're jealous, you can just say it directly. How did Miss Yun provoke you? Isn't she just prettier than you and more elegant than you? Miss Mu, you really don't choose your words carefully when you're jealous. Miss Mu, you've misunderstood. Miss Yin was invited by Xingzhe." "Oh." Mu Wanru laughed arrogantly. "Xingzhe, since when did you have such low standards to invite such a poor commoner to a place like this?" Qin Zhou's face immediately turned cold. "Miss Mu, please tone it down. Show some respect. People don't live too well. Since when is there a difference between nobles and commoners? There's no sign at the entrance of Empress that says commoners are not allowed in." As he said that, he pretended to cry. "Miss Mu, the commoner you're talking about, are you referring to me?" Mu Wanru's face turned pale. She endured it and said, "I'm not talking about you." "Then is it our Xingzhe?" Qin Zhou looked at her pitifully. He was just short of using a handkerchief to pretend to be innocent. "No, I'm talking about her." Mu Wanru secretly gritted her teeth and pointed at Yun Shirshir. "Aya, how did our Shirshir become a commoner?" "She's Xingzhe's date tonight. I brought her here to try on this gown." "Xingzhe's date? Guxing's date?" Mu Wanru was so shocked that her expression changed. Even Han Yuyan was shocked. Guxing's date? What did that mean? It meant absolute exposure and headlines. Just based on Guxing's popularity, he could dominate the headlines of many entertainment pages. Why? What did this woman have? Back then, when Huan Yu promoted Han Yuyan, the company's higher-ups repeatedly pressured Guxing's to walk the red carpet with Han Yuyan, but he ignored them all. What did this woman have? Han Yuyan's eyes turned red with jealousy. Mu Yaja's gaze turned cold. Guxing's date? Would she be attending Huan Yu's annual cocktail party tonight? This woman was dressed up for another man. Chapter 133. Mu Yaja lifted his arrogant chin slightly and looked at Yun Shirshir with a deep and cold gaze. An inexplicable sense of displeasure grew in his heart. He lifted his chin, especially when he saw Yun Shirshir hiding behind Guxing's like a frightened cat. His thin lips curved into a cold smile. She was so wary of him. Yet she was so close to another man. The great President Mu naturally felt uncomfortable. Hence, he looked at her deeply and turned his face away. He turned around and sat down on the sofa leisurely. The atmosphere was extremely strange. Xiao Yichen stood at the side, his handsome little face faintly showing a trace of displeasure. He didn't know why, but when he found out that Yun Shirshir was Guxing's female companion, he obviously felt unhappy. He actually felt that this woman and daddy looked very compatible when they stood together. Xiao Yichen was stunned by his own thoughts. God! Why would he have such a thought? It was too inexplicable. But this woman was very strange. He felt an inexplicable sense of closeness to her. Why? The little munchkin was a little confused. They were indeed father and son. Even their awkwardness was similar. Mu Wanru looked around arrogantly. When her gaze landed on Yun Shirshir, she suddenly felt a stab in her eyes. That luxurious gown was so glaring in her eyes. She then shifted her gaze and elegantly approached Yun Shirshir. With a condescending look, she squeezed out a mocking smile from the corner of her lips. "Ha, Xingzhe, when did your standards become so low? You actually found such a poor and lowly person to be your female companion?" Mu Wanru glanced at Yun Shirshir with a faint smile. Her eyes were full of contempt, as if she was a high and mighty queen and Yun Shirshir was like a lowly female slave. The two of them had similar figures, but Mu Wanru was wearing a pair of 8-centimeter high stilettos, which made her taller than Yun Shirshir. She raised her chin arrogantly. Yun Shirshir looked at her calmly. She wasn't shocked or angry, but her face was calm without a ripple of emotion. This is the work of Master Helen, who won the Fashion Week's Gold Award. Mu Wanru raised her chin high. Who allowed you to wear it? Upon hearing this, Alan shrank his shoulders and immediately said respectfully, "Young Madam Mu, I was the one who put it on her." "You?" Mu Wanru looked angry. "Do you know how expensive this dress is? Who allowed you to put it on her?" "It was me," Gu Xingzi said calmly. "I think this dress is very beautiful. It will definitely suit Shirshir very well." Shirshir? Why did he call her so intimately? Mu Yaja's eyes became colder. The unhappiness in his heart was getting worse and worse. Seeing Gu Xingzi speak, Mu Wanru softened her tone. "Xingzi, this dress is Master Helen's work. It's very expensive. How could you bear to? She's worth it. Besides, Shirshir does look beautiful in it." Gu Xingzi lowered his head to look at her, and reached out to tidy Yun Shirshir's slightly messy hair. This seemingly intimate action couldn't help but hurt some people's eyes. Especially Mu Yaja. The unhappiness in his eyes became more and more bottomless. Damn it, he minded. He actually minded other people touching her. He was such an eyesore. This feeling was so damn unpleasant. Mu Wanru didn't notice Mu Yaja's unfathomable expression at all. She said, "Xingzi, tonight is Huanyu Entertainment's annual cocktail party. There will be many distinguished guests and entertainment media present. Aren't you afraid of being mocked for bringing such an unknown female companion?" When Qin Zhou heard her say such harsh words, his brows furrowed deeply and he was filled with displeasure. Alan also said softly, "I think Miss Yin looks very good in it." Mu Wanru frowned slightly, pursed her red lips, and shot a sharp look at Alan. He was so frightened that he shut his mouth on the spot, and didn't dare to say another word. When Han Yuyan heard this, her heart was filled with anger. She had long disliked this girl who had neither fame nor family background. She detested her to the core. Mu Wanru's sarcasm seemed to have helped her vent her anger and supported her. She was happy and mocked her. What young Madame Mu said makes sense. A poor person will always be a poor person. No matter what she wears, she still looks poor. A sparrow will always be a sparrow. She still wants to fly up and become a phoenix? She's dreaming. Mu Wanru tidied her clothes and elegantly crossed her arms. Han Yuyan's young Madame Mu was very pleasing to her ears. Han Yuyan's mouth was as sweet as honey. As long as there was a chance for her to climb up the social ladder, she would never let it go. As she spoke, she held Xiao Dong's arm and sneered, her eyes full of disdain. "I say, don't embarrass yourself here. Go back to your slum." Qin Zhou raised his eyebrows and sneered. "You said that our Shirshir is poor. Heavenly Queen Han, are you from a noble family?" Han Yuyan was speechless. Of course she was not. On the contrary, her family was poor since she was young. Her family of 5 was squeezed into a small house. She was the one who was born in the slum. It was because she had tasted the taste of poverty since she was young that she developed a vain personality. When she graduated from junior high school, she entered an art school early and became an art student. She did not have the talent for learning and did not have the conditions to do so. It was only until she auditioned for a movie before she graduated that she was lucky enough to get that role that she successfully made her debut. In order to make her debut, she did not hesitate to use any means and suffered some hardships. Now that she was famous, the hardships were over. However, there were still many media outlets that made irresponsible remarks about her being uncultured. This had always been her sore spot. Qin Zhou saw her embarrassed expression and sneered. "Our Shirshir is still a university student. No matter what, she's still a top student. Moreover, our Shirshir is also highly regarded by Director Lin." "Director Lin?" Han Yuyan's expression changed. "Director Lin? Which Director Lin?" "Aya, you're really forgetful. You don't even remember the teacher who made you famous?" Qin Zhou said indifferently. "Lin Fengtian. How could she forget? He was one of the most talented directors in the Chinese film industry. The 2 movies he directed had been the box office champion for 3 years in a row. Wasn't he preparing to film a movie based on a famous youth novel? Could it be that she was the female lead?" Mu Wanru's eyes were filled with surprise. On the sofa, Mu Yaja's handsome face also showed a hint of surprise. Han Yuyan suddenly sneered. "How is that possible? Why would Director Lin choose her as the female lead? What right does she have?" "She was able to get the role of the female lead in Bamboo Dragonfly because she hooked up with the biggest investor of the movie. Because of this, Lin Fengtian was very dissatisfied with her, and did not treat her well. What right did Yin Shishir have? Could it be that she also used the unspoken rules? What right does she have? When Gu Xingze heard this, he smiled. As if there was no one around, he stretched out his arm and pulled Yin Shishir to his side. His gaze was full of tenderness as he looked at her. Although some people come from ordinary backgrounds, their aura is elegant and refined. Although Yin Shishir is not famous, she is the most beautiful girl I have ever seen. Mu Wanru looked at Gu Xingze and suddenly understood. Gu Xingze wanted to use his popularity to get more media exposure for Yin Shishir. He wanted to pave the way for her. It was obvious that Gu Xingze was very satisfied with this female lead that Lin Fengtian had chosen. Otherwise, given Gu Xingze's proud and aloof character, he would not have used his high popularity to promote her. This Yin Shishir, what did she do? Why was she always favored by the heavens? I don't care who chose her. She is not welcome here. Mu Wanru's eyes were full of viciousness. Her voice was distorted because of jealousy. Take it off and get out. When Yin Shishir heard this, her face showed a trace of embarrassment. How could this woman humiliate her like this? It was too much. She smiled and asked, why should I? Would she take it off just because she asked her to? She, Yin Shishir, was not someone who would be bullied. Mu Wanru laughed arrogantly, as if she had heard the funniest joke in the world. You are asking me why? When Alan heard this, he couldn't help but remind her. Miss Yun, I am very sorry. Empress is a business that the Mu Corporation has invested in. Yin Shishir's eyes widened in shock. No wonder Mu Wanru was so arrogant. She was the female owner of Empress. Gu Xingze smiled and said, I will buy this gown. Mu Wanru sneered. Not for sale. 100 million, Gu Xingze said without batting an eyelid. As soon as he finished speaking, even Qin Zhou, who was standing beside him, was shocked. Oh my God! Xingze. Was he crazy? 100 million. What kind of concept was that? Even if he liked Shishir very much, it was only 100 million for a gown. Was it worth it? Yin Shishir was deeply touched. She knew in her heart that this gown was not worth 100 million. Gu Xingze was only protecting her. If she really took off the gown and was chased out, that would be the greatest humiliation to her. And Gu Xingze was only using 100 million to protect her dignity. Was it worth it? Gu Xingze. Why was he so gentle with her? So careful and protective? Xingze. Are you crazy? Han Yuyan could not stand it anymore and said, this gown is not worth 100 million. I like it, he said calmly and concisely. He did not care about Han Yuyan's unwillingness at all. 100 million, I will buy it. Gu Xingze looked at Mu Wanru calmly and announced, you. Mu Wanru was furious and looked at him in disbelief. Mu Yaja's cold voice sounded from the side. Not for sale. Hearing this, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. He was not selling it even for 100 million. Why? Qin Zhou was also angry. Chairman Mu, 100 million is a sky-high price. Mu Yaja leaned on the sofa lazily and elegantly. He was as calm as an emperor in ancient times. His domineering aura spread to every corner. Chapter 134. Mu Yaja leaned on the sofa lazily and elegantly. He was as calm as an emperor in ancient times. His domineering aura spread to every corner of the room. Do you think I lack this 100 million? Everyone's expression froze. After a moment of shock, they understood that Mu Yaja, as the heir of the huge Disheng Financial Group, naturally had the right to decide the life and death of the group. Disheng Financial Group was not only important in the capital, but also in the entire Asian financial industry. Mu Yaja did not lack 100 million. Han Yuyan was even more shocked. She only knew that the Mu family was one of the wealthiest families in the capital, but she did not know that the Mu family was so powerful. Compared to them, Xiao Dong, who was standing beside her with a serious expression, could not even withstand a single blow. Han Yuyan bit her lip hard and started to hate herself for being so short-sighted. She could not help but feel jealous of Mu Wanru. Compared to the Mu family, the Xiao family was a joke. It was nothing. Mu Yaja's overbearing provocation stunned Gu Xingze and Yin Shishir. Even Qin Zhou, who had always been sharp-tongued, sighed helplessly. He knew Mu Yaja too well. Obviously, He was going to challenge Gu Xingzi to the end. Gu Xingzi's face darkened. His eyes, which were usually as cold as water, had a trace of bone-chilling sharpness. He frowned and turned his face away. The two men stared at each other across the room. Instantly, the air was filled with tension. President Mu, this gown is in the shop, but you're not selling it. What is the meaning of this? Mu Yaja curled his lips elegantly and stood up slowly. As he moved, the air in the exhibition hall was filled with his aura. For a moment, the air became even more tense. It's my right to decide whether to sell it or not. No one else has the right to interfere. Gu Xingzi's eyes were cold and his muscles were stiff. He was about to speak when Yin Shirshir grabbed his sleeve. Startled, he lowered his head and saw her smiling brightly. She said plainly, "Xingzi, thank you for your kindness. However, I'd better take off this dress." "You don't have to be afraid. This dress suits you very well. I still like the white evening gown that you and Qinzhou picked out. I like it very much." Yin Shirshir shook her head and interrupted him. Han Yiyan heard this and sneered. Humph. This empress was the Mu family's business, so the ownership of this dress was naturally decided by Chairman Mu. Chairman Mu loves young Mistress Mu dearly. Why would he give her up? These words were truly ear-piercing. For some reason, Yin Shirshir felt especially heartbroken when she heard this. This Mu Wanru was his fiancé. Naturally, he would not hand over the most beautiful evening gown to someone else. But why did her heart feel stuffy? Yin Shirshir suddenly laughed mockingly. What was there to question? If he did not love his fiancée, was he going to love her? She was no one to him. However, Yin Shirshir did not care much about it in her heart. Although this gown was luxurious, if she wore it tonight, she would definitely steal the limelight and attract everyone's attention. However, she was just a newcomer. She had no background and no works. If she was too ostentatious, she would definitely attract unnecessary trouble. She was not a vain woman. She did not care about what others thought of her. Yin Shirshir smiled and walked to the fitting room. She elegantly lifted the corner of her dress. Her steps were calm and her back was straight. There was no trace of embarrassment or disappointment. She was calm and composed. Instead, it made those who were waiting to see her embarrass herself at the side. Mu Wanru and Han Yuyan's resentment was like a fishbone stuck in their throats. Initially, they thought that Yin Shirshir would run back to the slums like a pathetic Cinderella after being humiliated in such a manner. They also thought that she would be full of schemes to climb up the social ladder. Alas, she did not. Yin Shirshir's calmness and composure set off Han Yuyan, and Mu Wanru's viciousness and hypocrisy. Xiao Dong stared at Yin Shirshir's proud back view with infatuation. Her heart was filled with shock. The situation just now was destined to embarrass her. In front of Mu Yaja, no one present had the right to defend her. Yet she was able to retreat so calmly, without even a trace of embarrassment. She was different from Mu Wanru. Although Yin Shirshir was not a real aristocrat, some women were like this. The aristocratic temperament and the elegance of royalty seemed to be innate and difficult to replicate. Mu Yaja looked at her back view. His deep eyes slowly narrowed and a deep meaning flashed across his eyes. He could not see through her. He originally thought that with his humiliation and arrogance, he would appreciate her weakness, helplessness and panic. However, from the beginning to the end, she was so elegant that he could not see through her. He was unhappy, he was very unhappy. He felt that this woman was not as easy to control as he thought. He admitted that the reason why he humiliated her so brazenly and embarrassed her was because she was hiding behind another man despite her meek appearance. Compared to her beside Gu Xingzi, Yin Shirshir in front of him was like a fully armed cat. She stretched out her sharp claws and fangs, not allowing him to violate her. Perhaps it was because this man hid his desire to conquer very well. He was usually quiet, but in fact his desire to control was amazing. This was his nature and instinct. The blood of an emperor flowed in his bones and he would not allow anyone to disobey him. However, he met a woman who was equally stubborn to the bone. Mu Yaja pursed his thin lips into a line, and his eyes were unreadable. Seeing this, although Alan could not bear to see it, he followed closely behind. With his help, Yin Shirshir changed into the evening gown that Qinzhou had his eyes on. She changed her hairstyle and matched it with simple but luxurious jewelry. Feeling guilty, Alan was especially attentive when he helped her do her makeup. After changing into a simple and elegant evening gown, the makeup naturally had to be changed as well. After changing the gorgeous makeup on her face to clear crystal makeup, Alan looked at her reflection in the mirror. What he saw was Yin Shirshir's extraordinary face. Her facial features were exquisite and beautiful. Alan was a top stylist, so he did the makeup all by himself. Yin Shirshir stood up and looked at Alan with a smile. She was still as perfect and flawless as ever. Alan was amazed again. A truly beautiful person was born extraordinary and did not need to rely on makeup. Even though Yin Shirshir was only wearing a simple white gown, she was still radiant. When she lifted the hem of her gown and walked out of the changing room, she attracted everyone's attention once again. Gu Xingze was even more amazed than before. Xiao Yichen, who was sitting in Mu Yaja's arms, was even more amazed. Qin Zhou, who was beside them, was stunned. Han Yuyan, who was beside them, was jealous and amazed. This girl made people jealous. Her beauty and temperament were blessed by the heavens. Why was she so blessed by the heavens? Mu Wanru's expression was even more complicated. Her eyes were filled with viciousness. Yin Shirshir walked towards Gu Xingze and Qin Zhou and smiled. What do you think? Great. Beautiful. Too beautiful. Shirshir, you look good in anything. You're a natural clothes hanger. As he spoke, Qin Zhou looked at Han Yuyan meaningfully. He didn't forget to add, unlike some people, no matter how beautiful the clothes are, they're nothing but a foil to her. You can't compare people to people. His words made Han Yuyan's face turn white. However, she did not say anything in response to Qin Zhou's sarcasm. Although Qin Zhou was a manager, he was the trump card of Huanyu Entertainment. He had countless resources and a strong background. She could not afford to offend him. Gu Xingze also said, Qin Zhou, you have good taste. This dress is beautiful. Shirshir looks good in anything. Qin Zhou was mesmerized. Yin Shirshir smiled. You're flattering me. Manager Qin, you have good taste. You have such a sweet mouth. I feel good hearing it. Gu Xingze looked at her. The haze in his heart was instantly swept away. He turned to Alan and said, I'll take this dress. Put it on my tab. Alan nodded and carefully observed Mu Yaja's expression. He did not know why, but it seemed that Chairman Mu was paying special attention to this newcomer. He saw that Mu Yaja's eyes were lowered, and he did not even look at her. It was as if he did not care about her at all. Alan pursed his lips. Did he misunderstand? He felt that Chairman Mu was paying special attention to her. Now he was showing his cold face again. A man's heart was like a needle at the bottom of the ocean. Especially for a man as mysterious as Mu Yaja, no one could guess what he was thinking. He did not even look at Gu Xingze and Yin Shirshir until they left. Mu Wanru immediately asked Alan to bring the dress that Yin Shirshir had changed out of. She happily walked into the fitting room and could not wait to put it on for her. She did not like this dress at first. Compared to the rose red, she preferred the elegant purple. However, Yin Shirshir looked so stunning in this dress that it attracted his attention. She was naturally unwilling to accept it. Why could she be so dazzling? She had to prove that she would look just as radiant when she wore this dress. She was eager to prove it to everyone. There was no time to delay. Not long after, she pretended to walk out in the dress. She thought that this dress would be even more stunning on her. However, when she walked out with her chin held high and waited for everyone's praise, everyone's eyes dimmed when they looked at her. Even Han Yuyan almost laughed out loud. It was too tacky. This elegant evening gown actually looked a little gaudy on her. Whether the dress was beautiful or not depended on the person wearing it. If the person was ordinary, they would not be able to wear such a luxurious dress. When Yin Shirshir wore it, she was the dress. When Mu Wanru wore it, she became the dress foil. For a moment, the atmosphere was silent. There was an awkward silence. Han Yuyan knew how to judge the situation. She quickly smiled and praised, Young Mistress Mu, you look so beautiful in this dress. Chapter 135. It was just a few words of vulgar praise, but little Yichen could tell at once that there was an unconcealed compliment in them. It sounded like a hypocritical compliment, but in the current situation, it was too awkward. This compliment was extremely awkward in the stifling silence of the scene. There was no comparison or contrast. Perhaps everyone had seen how stunning Yun Shirshir looked in this gown, but when Mu Wanru put it on, it instantly paled in comparison. It was supposed to be an elegant evening gown, but on Mu Wanru, it was indescribably tacky. Yun Shirshir's figure was curvy and exquisite. Her waist was slim, her legs were straight and slender, and she had beautiful shoulders and collarbones. When she put on this evening gown, these advantages were perfectly displayed. However, Mu Wanru's figure was not suitable for it. Her voluptuous upper body was undoubtedly exposed, and it looked extremely tacky. Mu Yaja opened his handsome eyes slightly, and his cold gaze landed on her body. He suddenly felt extremely disgusted. Once again, he recalled how gorgeous Yun Shirshir looked when she wore this evening gown. The contrast was too stark. After a moment of silence, Alan immediately reacted and praised, "Young Madam Mu, you look really beautiful in this gown." It was fine if he didn't praise her, but once he did, Mu Wanru's face completely collapsed. Looking at the awkward and dazed faces of the people around her, Mu Wanru looked unhappy. However, she still forced a smile and said, "Why? Don't I look good in this gown?" Han Yuyan smiled and said, "You look good. It's very beautiful and suits your temperament." Empty praise. She really didn't know what to praise. It was a woman's nature to compete and be jealous. How could Mu Wanru allow Yun Shirshir to steal all the limelight from her? However, Xiao Yichen was still a child, and he didn't know how to pretend to be a snake. He frowned and said, "Mommy, you don't look good in this gown." Han Yuyan's eyebrows twitched. How could this child be so honest and directly expose her? Little Munchkin's next sentence made Mu Wanru vomit blood. "This evening gown looks better on that pretty sister just now. This dress doesn't suit Mommy. Let's change to another one." Mu Wanru's face darkened. Han Yuyan smiled and said, "Children's words carry no harm. Young Master Mu, children's words carry no harm. Young Mistress Mu looks really good in this dress." "Humph, you're trying to curry favor with my mommy. Are you trying to embarrass my mommy at the party?" When Xiao Yichen saw that someone was questioning his sense of beauty, he retorted with a displeased expression and accused her of being a bad person. Han Yuyan gritted her teeth in anger. She was afraid that Mu Wanru would believe the child's words and misunderstand her intentions. She quickly said, "Young Mistress Mu, I didn't mean that." Mu Wanru ignored her and walked up to Mu Yaja. She smiled and asked, "Do I look good in this?" She stubbornly wanted an answer from him. It didn't matter what other people thought. His affirmation was better than 1,000 words of praise from others. Now that she had lost all her dignity, Mu Yaja only needed to say one word to save her face. If he said that she looked good, who would dare to question him? Mu Yaja's words were no doubt an imperial edict. Who would dare to refute him? Chapter 136. Mu Yaja slowly raised his head and looked at her. There was no surprise or admiration in his eyes, only a trace of impatience and coldness, which made Mu Wanru's heart turn cold. "Take it off." With an extremely cold order, Mu Wanru instantly froze on the spot. "Why? Did I say that you can wear this?" Mu Yaja sneered. Mu Wanru's expression froze and turned ugly. She didn't understand. Usually Mu Yaja would unconditionally satisfy her requests. She had whatever she wanted. He had always pampered her, and no matter how harsh her requests were, he would easily satisfy them. Why was he suddenly as cold as ice towards her? Why? Why do you want me to take it off? Am I not comparable to her? That bitch. Take it off. I'll give you 5 minutes to change into another one. Mu Yaja said as he raised the watch on his wrist. He had obviously started to calculate the time. "No, I won't take it off." Mu Wanru's eyes turned red. "I just like this one. I want to wear this to tonight's cocktail party." Mu Yaja's lips curved into a cold arc as he said coldly, "My patience is limited." Asia. Mu Wanru was shocked. She had never seen him treat her so coldly. Yun Shirshir, that damn bitch. She must be the reincarnation of a vixen. All the men who saw her acted as if their souls had been taken away. Mu Yaja said coldly, "There's still 1 minute." In other words, after this minute, her last shred of decency would be gone. He had always been true to his words. Feeling extremely wronged, Mu Wanru stomped her feet angrily. and returned to the fitting room to change into a new gown. The Bentley smoothly drove off the highway and slowly drove towards the venue of the cocktail party. In the car, Yun Shirshir silently lowered her head. The stubbornness and confidence had faded from her body, and her side profile looked a little down and out. Gu Xingze sat beside her, and looked at her leaning against the window with her head lowered. Her thin and small body inevitably made his heart ache. She was a girl who made one's heart ache, and could easily arouse a man's desire to protect her. Gu Xingze thought of the little boy who looked very similar to her in the Empress exhibition hall just now, and some guesses and doubts emerged in his heart. It was rumored that the young madam of the Mu family and the heir of the Mu group were engaged since birth. They were childhood sweethearts. Mu Wanru was Mu Yaja's beloved fiancé. However, this was only on the surface. In fact, Mu Yaja was a man who was apathetic to the core. He had never fallen in love with any woman. Mu Wanru was not little Yichen's biological mother. She had been diagnosed as a mother's Mu. Xiao Yichen's biological mother was someone else. Could it be her that day? He saw the boy in her arms. Whether it was age or facial features, he was exactly the same as Xiao Yichen. Gu Xingze smiled slightly. He actually cared a little. However, he had no right to ask. Qin Zhou also kept looking at her. He wanted to say something but hesitated. He wanted to care, but he was in no position to ask. Yin Shirshir raised her head and looked at Gu Xingze. She sincerely thanked him. Xingze, thank you so much just now. Thank you for protecting me. What are you thanking me for? Gu Xingze looked at her in amusement. That gown was really beautiful, but it's really not worth it to exchange for 100 million yuan. Not worth it. Gu Xingze smiled and said, it's worth it. Ah. Yin Shirshir looked at the handsome man in front of her in surprise. His lips were curved into a gentle smile, but his tone was extremely firm. Chapter 137. Shirshir, you deserve the best. It was a short sentence, but it was like a spring breeze. Gu Xingze looked at her with a gentle smile. Yin Shirshir was flattered. Gu Xingze, why are you so good to me? I don't know. Gu Xingze smiled. You're a girl who makes my heart ache. Thank you. Yin Shirshir said sincerely. Tonight was Huanyu Entertainment's 10th anniversary party. Celebrities from film, television and singing, as well as many well-known directors and investors, as well as international mainstream media reporters, were all present to witness this grand event. Huanyu Entertainment's predecessor was Universal Records, the country's leading gold medal record company. It had made countless popular idol singers famous, and for a time, it looked down on the domestic record industry. Later, when the record industry was in a slump, Universal Records quickly went downhill. After it was acquired by Dishing Financial Group, it was officially renamed Huanyu International Entertainment Agency. It gathered A-list big shots and 4 ace managers, continuing Universal Records' glory years ago. Unknowingly, Huanyu Entertainment had been established for 10 years. Tonight's party would be unprecedented. It was no wonder that those little models and has-been artists were racking their brains to walk the red carpet at this party. If they could seize this opportunity, they would be able to make a beautiful comeback. One must know that many well-known directors and producers were present tonight. What was more precious was that even Disheng Financial Group's CEO would be present. Disheng CEO. He was the crown prince of the Mu family, the capital's richest family, and the future heir of the Mu Group. Mu Yaja had always been mysterious. The news about him was all groundless. The public knew very little about this noble and mysterious crown prince, and he rarely appeared in public. When the socialites and aristocratic daughters in the circle learned about this, they all dressed up meticulously in order to leave a deep impression in front of this honorable CEO and win some attention. So what if he had a fiancé? Wealthy families like the Mu family were divided into the first, second, and third wives. Mu Yaja had 3 wives back then. Mu Yaja's father was the first wife's son, and he was doted on by Grandpa Mu. Therefore, there are also a lot of high-class nobles in this banquet, in order to be able to see the Mu family's young master's elegant demeanor. Even if they can't attract Mu Yaja's attention, if they can climb up the ranks of the Mu family's side branch, it can be considered as climbing up the social ladder. Therefore, as soon as the reporters arrived, they were stunned by the dazzling jewels in the hall. It was too extravagant. It was simply corrupt. In the entire capital, only the Mu family has such influence. In order to participate in this event, Yunna deliberately gritted her teeth and spent a fortune to rent a luxurious Bentley for 2,000 yuan. The Bentley drove into the venue and stopped at the entrance. Yunna immediately tidied up her outfit, especially the beautiful jewelry around her neck. She adjusted it to the best angle to ensure that the media could capture it from the first angle. For the sake of gaining exposure, Yunna could be said to have taken great pains and strived for perfection in everything. And it was all for the sake of attending the grand event in a grand manner. Humph, Yun Shirshir, you don't deserve to attend this kind of cocktail party. You should just stay at home with that bastard child of some unknown man, and watch her on the TV. Yunna cursed viciously in her heart. The chauffeur opened the car door, and Yunna immediately revealed a flawless smile. She proudly raised her chin, straightened her back, and gently tucked her hair behind her shoulders before gracefully stepping onto the red carpet. Her appearance attracted the attention of many female celebrities. Chapter 138. Van Cleef & Arpels was the most expensive jewelry brand. Among them, the Secret Garden series was the most favored by celebrities. The Vicomte from the Secret Garden series was one of a kind in the world. The moment Yunna walked on the red carpet, she immediately attracted everyone's attention. When the media saw her, they all raised their cameras and took pictures of her. The other female celebrities couldn't help but talk among themselves. Their eyes were fixed on her. Who was this newcomer? The gown she's wearing is Armani's new spring collection. Oh my god, look at the necklace on her neck. It's from the Secret Garden series. I heard that the gems on it are worth tens of millions. It can't be a fake, right? This Vicomte is out of print. It's only sold in limited quantities worldwide. Ordinary people can't buy it. It must be a fake. This Vicomte can't be bought even if you have the money. I don't know where this unknown newcomer came from. She's even wearing a fake jewelry. Humph. I heard that there was a sugar daddy who wanted to buy this necklace at a sky-high price. The crowd was talking about it. Yunna couldn't hear what the socialites were talking about. She only felt that she was the center of attention. Many pairs of envious and jealous eyes fell on her. She was very pleased with herself. Yunna raised her head proudly and puffed out her ample chest. She walked to the entrance but was politely stopped by the concierge at the door. Hello, madam. Please show me your invitation card. Invitation card? Did this cocktail party need an invitation card? Yunna was a little flustered for a moment, but she quickly calmed down and raised her chin proudly. She sneered in disdain, and was so angry that she laughed. What do you mean? You're asking me for an invitation card? Are you suspecting that I came uninvited? I'm sorry, madam. You misunderstood. Entering with an invitation card is one of the procedures of the cocktail party. The concierge had a decent smile on his face, but there was a trace of doubt in his eyes. The entrance checkpoint of the cocktail party was set up very carefully, in order to prevent small models and unknown stars from sneaking into the venue. Some celebrities didn't receive an invitation but still wanted to sneak in. Huan Yu's annual cocktail party had sent out a total of 500 invitations, 100 VIP cards, and 100 seats for the media in the venue. Every guest had to show their identity when they entered the venue. Otherwise, they would be blocked outside the door. No one was an exception. Yunna looked a little embarrassed and said unhappily, I'm with Director He. Do I need an invitation? Then may I ask which director's female companion you are? Director He Lingxiang. Poochie. Suddenly, a disdainful sneer came from beside him. Yunna furrowed her brows in embarrassment and turned her head, only to see that the person laughing at her was actually one of the four most popular young actresses, Yangmi Tonight. She was wearing an evening gown with golden tassels. It was so long that it reached the ground, making her look slender and elegant. It was simple yet luxurious, especially the diamond necklace around her neck. Coupled with her exquisite makeup, she looked stunning. As someone who stood at the peak of public opinion, Yang Chong naturally knew how to create momentum for himself. As soon as he appeared, he instantly killed countless furlants. However, halfway through the red carpet, the limelight was stolen by this newcomer, who came out of nowhere. Yangmi was naturally unhappy. Chapter 139. Where did this newbie come from? How could she not know the rules? An unknown newbie dressed so luxuriously and dared to steal the limelight from them. She had no sense of propriety at all. This wasn't her home ground. Was she doing this on purpose? Youngmi didn't have a good impression of her. Yun-na was the typical big-breasted but brainless type. She had stolen the limelight the moment she appeared and offended many actresses. Which director did you come with? Yang Chong slowly walked in front of her and asked arrogantly. Yun-na looked at her and was a little defeated by her aura. This Yang Chong had such a strong aura. His arrogant eyes were so oppressive that even her confidence was suppressed. I'm with director He. I'm his female companion. Youngmi was deliberately making things difficult for her. Who asked her to steal her limelight? She didn't know how to restrain herself. Naturally, she wouldn't let her off easily. There are so many directors with the surname He. Not everyone has the right to enter such an event. Tell me your name, and see if I know you. Yun-na bit her lip. Why did Youngmi have to make things difficult for her? What did it have to do with her whose companion she was? However, she knew that Youngmi was someone with a strong background. In the entertainment industry, every actress who was doing well had a strong backer. She couldn't afford to offend them. Otherwise, as a newbie, she wouldn't dare to offend someone and be blacklisted before she even debuted. Thus she said respectfully, It's He Lingxiang, director He. You can't even speak coherently. You're just a nobody who hasn't seen the world. You're delusional to think that you can enter such an event. You're not worthy. Sister me. She just said that she's He Lingxiang's companion. That director He. He. A well-dressed actress beside Youngmi whispered to her. This actress was called Tang Yu. She had just debuted not long ago, and played a supporting role in a period drama starring Youngmi. She had gained some popularity with the audience and accepted many roles. Recently, she had been very close to Youngmi. She seemed to be whispering, but it seemed like she was deliberately saying it to someone. Every word was extremely humiliating. Newbies nowadays are so unscrupulous in order to climb up the ranks? What kind of person is He Lingxiang? She has the ability to climb into director He's bed. What a taste! Yang Chong sneered and said, Isn't that so? Some newbies don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. They think that they can climb up the ranks just by hugging a big thigh. They don't even know how much they are worth. Don't think that the entertainment industry is a place where anyone can step into. That's right. Yun-na was filled with grievances as Yang Jian, and Tang Yu made things difficult for her at every turn, yet she didn't dare voice her anger. She could only pinch the corner of her dress and purse her lips as tears welled up in her eyes. Tang Yu continued to add fuel to the fire. Look at her. She's pretending to be wronged. Big sis me, she seems to be quite scheming. Look at her outfit. She's clearly trying to steal your limelight. She's not worthy. Yang Chong sneered. I think her outfit is fake. Yun-na immediately defended herself. No. Then where did the necklace on your neck come from? Yang Chong obviously didn't believe him. This necklace is worth tens of millions. Can you afford it? How is that possible? It must be fake. She's obviously a commoner. She's so unsophisticated. Some of the invited actresses at the side also surrounded them. Their words of ridicule were extremely vicious. Chapter 140. Thus, Yun-na was at a loss as she was surrounded by them. She braced herself and listened to their endless insults as the grievances in her heart turned upside down. Just you wait. Just you wait. She would remember every debt she owed him today. When she made it big, she would pay them back 100 times, 1,000 times over. Many of the reporters at the side sympathized with her. This newcomer had offended many seniors before even entering the venue. She was really pitiful. However, this was the industry. As a newcomer, you had to know how to keep a low profile. Otherwise, it would be easy to offend people. Therefore, no one stepped forward to help her. Youngmi had a high status in the industry. Now that her career was at its peak, her 8 years of acting had accumulated a lot of popularity with the audience. No one dared to offend her. What's going on? Why are you all blocking the entrance? A man's low and cool voice came from not far away. Everyone turned around in surprise and saw Li Jiuxian standing behind them. He was wearing a custom-made suit today. It was well-tailored and extraordinarily elegant. His handsome face attracted countless screams when he entered the venue. Li Jiuxian was a popular young actor newly signed by Huanyu Entertainment. He was elegant and handsome. Blessed with a unique appearance, he had already starred in 2 commercial blockbusters and 5 idol dramas in just 2 years after his debut. He was very productive and had a lot of resources in his hands. He was a popular idol promoted by Huanyu Entertainment. Yunna looked at him, but his gaze fell on her. He saw that she was in a sorry state and felt wronged. As if she was clutching at a life-saving straw, Yunna pursed her lips and looked at him pitifully. Her pair of beautiful red eyes made people fall in love with her. Li Jiuxian couldn't help but feel pity for her. He looked at Yang Mi and said, "Sister Mi, why aren't you entering the venue?" Li Jiuxian and Yang Mi were brothers and sisters in the same company and had a good relationship. Previously, the 2 of them starred in a period drama together. The ratings were very good and there was even a rumor that the 2 of them fell in love with each other. The rumor had occupied the headlines for several months. Yang Mi said, "It's all because of this little B***tch blocking the way. She's just a newcomer, yet she's so ambitious and wants to steal the limelight." Li Jiuxian smiled. "Sister Mi is so beautiful. Tonight, you'll definitely be the center of attention." When Yang Chong heard his praise, she naturally enjoyed it. Her face couldn't help but blush as she pouted. "Jiuxian, you're also very handsome today. Tomorrow's headline will definitely be yours." "Thank you for your guidance, Sister Mi." However, at this juncture, the media was already waiting at the reception. "Big Sis Mi, don't be so calculative with a newcomer. Otherwise, if word gets out, the media will exaggerate and say that you're abusing your power to bully others. That won't be worth it," Li Jiuxian advised. "Yes, you're right." Obviously, Yang Chong had taken his words to heart. She stepped forward and naturally held his arm. Li Jiuxian smiled elegantly and entered the venue with her. Yunna stared blankly at Li Jiuxian's departing figure, and her heartbeat couldn't help but quicken and thump. Tang Yu didn't continue pestering Yunna when he saw this. He grunted coldly and warned her before entering the venue as well. Not long after, He Lingxiang arrived. Chapter 141. Reading on her phone. Reading on her phone. Bai Ran nodded and turned on her phone. She could already surf the internet normally. Gu Qingze booked a hotel pickup service. When they arrived at the hotel, it was already 4 in the morning. Bai Ran had a feeling that they would probably spend the next day in the hotel. She felt that it would be a waste. Gu Qingze seemed to have seen through her thoughts and comforted her. "It's okay. If you're really tired tomorrow, you can rest in the hotel. Anyway, tomorrow's itinerary hasn't been decided yet." Bai Ran was a little worried. Isn't it too extravagant? For some reason, he felt a little reluctant to waste his time in a hotel when he was out on a trip. Gu Qingze laughed. "We're getting married on a trip. It's different from other trips. We don't have to be so tired. Rest well and you can recharge your energy." I think you won't even be able to get out of bed tomorrow." When Bai Ran heard this, she smiled and said, "Actually, I slept for a while on the plane. Even if I'm tired, I should be able to wake up by noon tomorrow." "Oh, you have so much energy?" Gu Qingze's eyes were playful as he said meaningfully, "Then I'll have to learn from you." "Learn from you?" Bai Ran didn't understand for a moment. However, when they arrived at the hotel, the 2 of them took a shower and lay on the bed. Bai Ran finally understood what Gu Qingze meant when he said, "Learn from you," on the way to the hotel. She originally thought that after such a long flight, he would be exhausted and would probably fall asleep after taking a shower at the hotel. She didn't expect that when they got on the bed, Gu Qingze would flip over and press her under him and start to demand. After being married for so long, he rarely touched her. Even if he did touch her, he wouldn't be too rough. Especially the first and second time. He was considerate of her first time and her body couldn't withstand the torment. Therefore, he was always careful and extremely gentle. Therefore, to Bai Ran, it wasn't as embarrassing as the rumors said. She felt like she was run over by a truck. She felt sore all over. She didn't feel anything at all. By the 4th and 5th time, she had already gotten used to it. It was only during this honeymoon that a certain man, who had been conserving his energy, finally showed his true strength in bed. It wasn't until the next day that Gu Qingze saw that she was exhausted. Even though he couldn't bear to part with her, he knew that he had to give up. At that time, she felt that her body was as soft as cotton, and she didn't even have the strength to get off the bed. No wonder. It was only then that Bai Ran realized that Gu Qingze was right when he said that she might not be able to get out of bed tomorrow. It turned out that this man already had some kind of plan from the moment he boarded the plane. Gu Qingze carried her. After cleaning her up, he carried her to bed to rest. When he held her in his arms, he couldn't help but feel a little restless. Only then did she beg for mercy. She kissed and pecked him, saying all sorts of nice things. Only then did he hug her in satisfaction and fall asleep. That night, she was really tired. The energy she had replenished on the plane had been completely squeezed out. Therefore, she slept especially soundly. She didn't even dream of anything and slept until noon the next day. At noon she still couldn't bear to wake up. Gu Qingze was the first to wake up. He waited for her to wake up, but she didn't wake up, so he kissed her awake. Watch first episode Zue new chapter section. Please go to client, mobile address. Watch first episode Zue new chapter section. Please go to client, mobile address. Chapter 142. Reading on the phone. Reading on the phone. At noon, she still couldn't bear to wake up. Gu Qingze was the first to wake up, but she didn't wake up no matter how long he waited, so he kissed her awake. Bai Ran had been tormented by him until very late at night, and a woman's stamina was not as good as a man's. Although she had rested enough and didn't feel sleepy, after an entire night of passion, she opened her eyes but didn't have the strength to get out of bed. Gu Qingze kissed her awake, so he naturally wouldn't waste the rare honeymoon opportunity. Although they were getting married on a trip, Bai Ran and Gu Qingze had agreed to include a honeymoon in the trip. Especially, it was when he saw Bai Ran wake up. Her sleepy eyes were surrounded by smoke. Although she had just woken up and was in a daze, her skin was surprisingly good and had the texture of egg white. The more Gu Qingze looked at her, the more he held her face and kissed her more and more passionately. The more he kissed her, the more he wanted to have her. Under Bai Ran's half-hearted resistance, he had her twice. It was as if he wanted to vent all the passion and vitality he had accumulated over the past 20 years on this woman in this limited and short period of time. Gu Qingze had been forbidden for too long. It wasn't that he hadn't thought about the relationship between a man and a woman. After all, he was an adult man and naturally had needs. However, he was different from ordinary men. Forget about what happened. Even ordinary kissing and hugging could not be done without a foundation of feelings. It was almost instinctive for him to think about love. It wasn't that he hadn't thought about the relationship between a man and a woman based on feelings. It wasn't purely because he couldn't let go of Bai Ran. At that time he didn't have any expectations of meeting Bai Ran again. As for the Gu family, they basically turned a blind eye to his relationship problems. Gu Jinglian felt that dating and marriage were two different things. Hence he was open to dating. However, Gu Qingze couldn't be bothered to deal with it. He felt that it was too tiring to start from knowing each other, and then understand each other. In a way he was too lazy. Therefore gradually as time passed he became numb to such things. As long as it was something that could be solved by himself, he would do it half-heartedly. In any case to him, these were all things that could be solved by himself. However, after meeting Bai Hao, the instinct that had been suppressed in his body for a long time was finally released. It was as if he couldn't get enough of it no matter how much he ate. Bai Ran wanted to cooperate with him, but Gu Qingze was young and hot-blooded. After 2 rounds, he was exhausted. Therefore, not long after, she collapsed in his arms and learned how to act coquettishly. She hummed and pushed him away. Obviously, she couldn't handle it anymore. Unbeknownst to her, Gu Qingze almost couldn't control himself when he heard her whining. "Jin, in the future, you're not allowed to act coquettishly with anyone other than me." Gu Qingze suddenly made a strange request. Bai Hao was a little confused. He didn't understand. "What's wrong? Promise me, okay?" When Gu Qingze thought of her using such a tone to act coquettishly with others, regardless of whether it was a man or a woman, he was very offended. "All right." Bai Hao made a generous gesture. "I promise you." What an overbearing man. Viewing Starter Zue New Chapter 8 sections, please go to Hall Guest, mobile address. Starter Zue New Chapter sections, please go to Hall Guest, mobile address. Chapter 143. Reading on mobile phone. Reading on mobile phone in the afternoon. Byran finally recovered and was able to get out of bed. The two of them packed up and went to the hotel's Western restaurant. She was a little hungry, but it was not a meal. However, this hotel was a 5-star Holiday Inn in Hong Kong. The hotel's luxurious Western restaurant had a huge floor-to-ceiling window. Sitting by the window, not only could one have a panoramic view of the pirates and the forest, but one could also enjoy an especially authentic English afternoon tea. Byran politely declined English cuisine, but the English afternoon tea was quite delicious. Byran looked at the dessert tower in front of her and the fragrant black tea, and felt her whole body relax a little. The dessert tower's decoration was so beautiful that Byran could not help but take a few pictures and share them on her WeChat moments. However, not long after, several WeChat notifications suddenly rang. Byran picked up her phone and saw that it was the company's business department director. She had forgotten to block her colleagues from the company when she was sharing the pictures. She said that she was not feeling well and wanted to take leave. In the end, she went to have fun. Why can't I get through to her? Is she deliberately not picking up? Byran, I'm warning you, call me back immediately. Otherwise, you'll be punished for absenteeism. In just a few words, the beautiful afternoon mood was completely ruined. Byran's face fell. Wuxia saw this and could not help but ask, "What's the matter?" "I just took a few pictures and shared them on WeChat moments." The company director saw it. Oh, Wuxia was a little surprised. "Didn't you resign?" "But I haven't resigned yet." When Wuxia heard this, he suddenly asked tentatively, "Do you still want to do this job?" Byran looked up and glanced at him. She pursed her lips and said the most heartfelt words. "Actually, I don't want to do this job anymore. In the beginning, I joined this company because I felt that I would be able to gain good experience in this company. I studied design, and in the future, I hope to have my own design studio. However, ever since I joined this company, they only asked for the same designs. Also, because they work with the local wedding dress market, I draw wedding dresses every day until I'm about to throw up. This is not my dream." Wuxia nodded. "Then why didn't you resign back then?" "Because if I change jobs and have no source of income, Auntie will say that I'm a freeloader." Baize was a strong-willed person. She had a strong sense of self-esteem and could not bear such humiliation. Old Gnawing Clan? She had started working as soon as she graduated. Although her salary wasn't high, it was reasonable. She had followed her aunt's wishes and joined the company. She was tired of the same designs every day. She was not an arrogant person, but with her goal, she absolutely did not want to settle for such a small company. If you're not happy at work, then change your job. It's also very troublesome to find a new job. There's no rush. A good job can't be rushed. Besides, I'm taking care of you. What are you afraid of? Wuxia's especially calm words greatly moved Byran. He said so matter-of-factly that he would take care of her. For a moment, she felt so happy that she was about to float up and watch. Starter Zue New Chapter 8 Sections Welcome to Hall of Visitors, Mobile Address. Watch Starter Zue New Chapter 8 Sections Welcome to Hall of Visitors, Mobile Address. Chapter 144. For the first time in her life, Byran had the feeling that she had someone backing her up. Unconsciously, the corners of her lips curled up as she secretly laughed. Wuxia saw that she was laughing and could not help but reach out to pinch her cheeks gently. "What are you laughing at?" "I feel like you're my big backer. Now that you've said that, I feel more confident." Actually, Byran was not a career-oriented woman. However, she was a person with a strong backbone. Especially after living under someone else's roof for so many years, she believed that no matter what, she had the ability to back herself up. However, after graduation, under her aunt's urging, she found a company and hurriedly started work. She did not consider her career direction and prospects. After joining the company, she designed a bunch of wedding dresses. She was almost numb to it. Originally, designing wedding dresses should have been a blissful thing. However, she often had to work overtime due to large orders. At her peak, she had to submit more than 10 design drafts a week. Although she did not earn much, as long as it was a design, She had to put in a lot of effort. Therefore, almost every design draft was a masterpiece. This was also the reason why the company did not let her go. If it were not for Byran's soft temper, with her talent, after working for a year in this small design company, she would have been the head of the design department. She was too easy to talk to, so she was suppressed. Why else would there be a saying, kind people get bullied? Seeing her satisfied look, Guqing's heart ached and he pitied her. I'm your backer. After a pause he added, I'm your backer for life. Yeah. Byran leaned her head gently on his shoulder. At this moment on WeChat, the owner of the design department angrily complained again. Byran, do you still want this job? Just because I gave you some color, you started a dye shop. Do you think work is so perfunctory? You don't even care about the company's rules and regulations. Do you believe that I'll fire you? If this goes on, this shabby temple won't be able to accommodate a great Buddha like you. Byran looked at the director's angry words and smiled. He replied lightly, since you've said so, isn't it up to you to decide whether to expel me or not? In an office far away in Beijing, when the director saw Byran's reply, he almost exploded in anger. She had only said those words in a fit of anger. She really couldn't bear to fire him. One had to know that Byran was the head of the design department. It was because of Byran's talent that the company could receive more and more orders. She had threatened to expel Bai Hao just to intimidate him. She had thought that Bai Hao would be scared and beg for mercy after she had shown him her power. After all, in her eyes, Bai Kun had always been a soft persimmon that could be crushed at will. Now, this sentence made her completely dumbfounded. Does this idiot think his wings have hardened? The director had no way out of this embarrassing situation. He didn't know what to do. If he really fired them, what would happen to all the orders piled up there? He was known to want to die for nothing. This is so infuriating. So infuriating. The director slammed the table, his face red. Chapter 145. In the office, an assistant happened to be boiling water. Seeing the angry look on the director's face, she heard the director's nagging and grumbling on Bai Yu's WeChat. She probably understood what had happened, so she said casually, "This Bai Yu is really lucky." The director's attention was attracted by her, and he was a little confused. What do you mean? Oh, director, you don't know? I heard that Bai Yu married a good husband. I heard that he's worth tens of millions. What's so strange about having a net worth of tens of millions? The director said disapprovingly, in this capital, how many people with a net worth of tens of millions can be smashed with a brick? Sigh, director, you don't know this. Do you know about the Spring River Imperial Seal? I know. It's a very famous real estate. Those who can buy it are the top people in society. The director reacted. Why did you suddenly mention the Spring River Imperial Seal? I saw that her husband just bought a house there some time ago. Moreover, he has a good relationship with the president of Xingyu Financial Group. The director sucked in a breath of cold air. Most of the designers in this design company were Beijing drifters. Therefore, they worked hard in the hope of leaving a place in the capital. Owning a house in the capital and being able to buy a house were two different concepts. Many people's houses in the capital were obtained through demolition. The old city district was renovated and settled down in a residential area. Therefore, although most of the houses in the residential area were expensive, they could not be sold because they needed them. Secondly, the residential area was just an ordinary real estate. However, the Spring River Imperial Seal was different. This real estate was open to the top elites in society. Just the price alone was enough to make people flinch. Those who could buy the Spring River Imperial Seal were either rich or noble. When he heard that Bai Yu's husband lived in the Spring River Imperial Seal, the director did not believe it. Listen to her bragging. The houses there cost tens of millions, and you still have to draw numbers. It doesn't matter, you still have to line up obediently. This isn't Bai Yu bragging. Everyone in our company knows and saw it with their own eyes. Bai Yu said that her husband has special channels and can buy a house there at a 50% discount. Many colleagues in the company didn't believe it, so they all went with her. In the end, they were slapped in the face in public. Moreover, many people said that Bai Yu's husband and the president of Xingyu Financial Group, Yin Tianyu. The director called out the name immediately. Yin Tianyu was an influential figure in the capital. It resounded like thunder in the ears. Yes, it was him. The two of them seemed to have a good relationship. Many people guessed that Bai Ran's husband is also a member of the rich second-generation circle. When the director heard this, he could not help but scoff. It's not that I want to say this, but this is just a dream. There has to be a limit, right? Rich second generation. Which of the rich second-generation heirs in the capital didn't care about matching up? What kind of family background does Bai Hao have? She has nothing. She only has a pretty face. Why would someone like her? She felt a little unbalanced. After all, even she hadn't found a partner yet. With a monthly income of 20 to 30,000, she was considered to be at the bottom of the food chain in Beijing. The assistant smiled but didn't say anything. Maybe she's married into a rich family, so she doesn't care about this job at all. From what I see, she definitely has nothing to do with it. How blissful it is to be a young mistress who doesn't have to worry about food and clothing. There wasn't much malice in his words, but they were filled with envy. When the director heard this, he was skeptical. You're not telling the truth, are you? Chapter 146. Reading on a mobile phone. Reading on a mobile phone. Everyone in the company knows that I'm not the only one who can decide whether this is true or not. After the assistant finished speaking, she smiled and left. The director leaned back in his chair and suddenly felt a little puzzled. This society was not as romantic as television dramas. What Rich Young Master and Cinderella? This kind of plot could not be played out in reality. There was a reason why families of equal social status should be matched. The disparity between the rich and the poor was not small at all. Not to mention ordinary people like Bai Ran. Even the female celebrities in the entertainment industry could not wait to squeeze their heads into the gaps of the rich and powerful. However, the real rich and powerful looked down on them. Although the aristocratic system had been abolished in the country, just by looking at the banquets, the charity events, and the famous private clubs, it was clear that the abolition of the aristocratic system was just a superficial thing. In fact, many rich people liked to have the title of aristocrats. Everyone wanted to be a dragon or phoenix among men. The vanity and arrogance of humans had always been deeply ingrained. This was a little puzzling. Why could a commoner like Bai Ran marry into a rich and powerful family? That was the dream of many women. Moreover, Bai Ran was usually very dull and did not know how to please people. In the office, no one was willing to play with her. It was not that she was difficult to get along with. First, it was because she was strict with her discipline. She had to go home after work and rarely attended colleagues' gatherings. Second, she was poor. Because she was poor, sometimes when her colleagues were kind to her, occasionally treating her to a meal or small gifts, she did not dare to accept them. Her ability was limited and she did not know how to repay them. It was also because of this that Bai Ran was a little high and mighty in the eyes of others. Such a girl, what kind of tricks did she use? However, where did this phrase come from? Circle. Since she had really married a rich man, the circle of rich people must not be small, right? If they could get closer to her, then wouldn't they have the opportunity to come into contact with the circle of rich people? Perhaps she would be lucky enough to find a Mr. Right that she would be in love with. The director of the design department was already 27 years old. He had been in this company for more than 4 years. He was cautious and conscientious, and his dream was to be able to live and work in Beijing. Her hometown was not rich and was a well-known poor village. After coming to the city, she was deeply attracted by the prosperity and neon lights here. She thought that she must stay in such a city. However, she had been busy with work for the past few years. She didn't like the male colleagues in the company because they were from ordinary families. She didn't know many big shots and occasionally had the opportunity to go on blind dates. However, based on her qualifications, it seemed that she couldn't find a satisfactory one. However, since Bai Ran was able to marry a rich man, she boasted that her background was better than Bai Ran's. Therefore, she was more confident. Bai Ran had just finished her afternoon tea when the director sent her another WeChat message. However, the tone in this message seemed to be much better. Bai-kun. Previously it was my fault. You were not in good health. As your superior, I should have been more understanding. At the same time, You should be more understanding. I'm also very tired with so many employees. You haven't come to work for a few days, and the partners have been rushing you. I kept asking you when you would come to work, but you didn't reply. Today, I saw you showing off the food on your WeChat moments. I thought you were having fun and didn't look like you were sick. I got angry. Start Zue new chapter section, please go to hall guest, mobile address. Start Zue new chapter section, please go to hall guest, mobile address. Chapter 147. The director was especially good at manipulating people's thoughts. She knew that if Baisheng really married into a wealthy family like the rumors in the company said, then using the company's treatment to threaten her might not work at all. However, she knew that Baisheng was a girl with a strong sense of responsibility. Therefore, she would definitely feel guilty if she were to talk about her responsibilities at work. As expected, when Baisheng heard this, she really felt a little guilty. Indeed, when she heard the director's tactful tone, she also blamed herself. After all, she had not gone to the company for the past few days because of personal reasons, not because of her health. Except for that one time, she really could not get out of bed. In the end, because of the leave application, they had become unhappy, Baisheng said guiltily. Actually, some things have happened recently. I have also seriously considered the problem of work. I keep feeling that this job is not very suitable for me. I want to seek a development that is more suitable for me. At that time, it was indeed because I was not feeling well, but when I applied for leave, the company's handling made me feel a little disappointed. So, I also understand. You've been wronged, so are you a little disappointed with the company's leave application system? Baisheng said bluntly, yes. If it's because of this reason, I want to apologize to you solemnly. At that time, there was indeed a misunderstanding. When the employee was not feeling well, as the company's manager, I did not comfort her immediately. Instead, I questioned and was aggressive. It was indeed the company's fault. The director's sincere apology stunned Baisheng. If she had known earlier, this director had always been extremely harsh to her. Suddenly he became so gentle and considerate. It was hard for her to get used to it. Baisheng held her phone in a daze. Guqingzi drank his tea casually at the side while observing her expression. However, he remained silent. On the other end, the director asked again, in short, if that's the case, you don't have to consider resigning anymore, right? When Baisheng heard this, she immediately explained, I don't want to resign because of this. Then, before Baisheng could speak, the director asked, do you think the company can't give you a better development? Have you forgotten? You signed a contract with the company. If you leave, you have to pay the penalty fee. Penalty fee. Baisheng frowned. He did not remember this rule. However, she didn't see it clearly when she signed the contract. At that time, the people in the HR department were busy with work and kept urging her to sign the contract. She thought that it was a legitimate company, but she had indeed neglected the matter of liquidated damages. Guqingzi heard her and said in a low voice, I'll pay for the breach of contract. When Baisheng heard this, he said guiltily to the director, I'll pay the penalty. The penalty for breaking the contract is very high. The director began to scare her. Baisheng said, I still need to focus on my own future development. I don't think the company's environment is suitable for me. Actually, seeking better development is also a matter of urgency. As the saying goes, a fine bird chooses a tree to nest in. However, in today's society, there is no lack of talent. Who doesn't require many years of work experience to find a job outside? You can work here for a few years and become a senior designer. Then you can set up your own company. Chapter 148. Reading on mobile phone. Reading on mobile phone by Ran was stunned when he heard that. She did not expect that the department head, who usually had the temper of an old hag, would be so gentle and persuasive to her today. Was it really the same person? Bai Yan was not very good at rejecting people. Perhaps, since she was young, there were too few people who treated her well. Therefore, it was fine to say that they were a little mean to her, but she really didn't know how to reject them if they were gentle to her. However, she really wanted to leave, but she did not know how to respond to the department head's gentle tone. How about this? The department head probed. I heard from a few of your colleagues that you got married not long ago. Yeah. Then you've probably been on a honeymoon during this period of time? I guess so. Bai Yan glanced at Gu Qingze, who looked at her and smiled. She smiled back and said, we got married on a vacation. No wonder. The department head's tone was even more apologetic. She said guiltily, I'm sorry, Bai Yan. I seem to have wronged you. No matter what, you should have fun during this period of time. When you return to the country and come to the company, we'll talk about the details. Okay. After hanging up the phone, Bai Yan looked at Gu Qingze blankly. Gu Qingze asked half-jokingly, what's wrong? Are you softening your heart? Don't tell me you're planning to continue working at the company? I heard that the breach of contract costs a lot of money. Gu Qingze smirked. Didn't I say that I'll pay for you? But, Bai Yan pouted and muttered, I didn't do anything wrong. Why should I pay them the breach of contract? There's a price for the breach of contract, but you can't restrict your life because of this visible price. This is not an equivalent exchange. After hearing Gu Qingze's words, Bai Yan suddenly felt enlightened. That's right. She couldn't possibly put her life and future on the line for the sake of a mere breach of contract. Moreover, if you don't want to pay the breach of contract, hire a lawyer and carefully read the contract. If the breach of contract involves the overbearing clause, the company's unreasonable request can be rejected. How much is the lawyer's fee? Bai Zhe began to calculate carefully in his little head. Gu Qingze didn't know whether to laugh or cry. The legal team is ready-made. My company has them, so you don't have to pay extra. Wow, Bai Hao nodded. Okay, let's do that. Little money grubber. Gu Qingze couldn't help but scratch her nose lightly. How could this little fool be so cute and save money for him? Since we're already married, you can just squander the money I earn. You don't have to be so frugal. Money will run out eventually. But you can't earn all the money you want. You can only earn if you spend money, right? Gu Qingze's brainwashing was deeply rooted in people's hearts. When they were in college, Bai Ruo had the nickname of a cheapskate. Being stingy meant being stingy. It was not that she was stingy, but her living expenses were too little. Usually she did not even have enough to eat and wear. Therefore, she could not take care of the social interactions between friends. She felt a deep sense of guilt every time she spent money. Even though Gu Qingze was so generous, she still couldn't suppress the guilt in her heart. Viewing Starter Zue New Chapter 8 sections, please go to lobby, mobile address. Watch Starter Zue New Chapter sections, please go to lobby, mobile address. Chapter 149. She felt deeply guilty every time she spent money. Even though Gu Qingze was so generous, she still could not suppress the guilt in her heart. Alright, since we're traveling, don't think about unhappy things. Gu Qingze coaxed her. Bai Ran felt a little guilty. Is it because of my work troubles that affect your mood? No. Gu Qingze tucked her messy hair behind her ear and said seriously. As long as you're happy. After all, this trip was prepared for her and them. Bai Yu smiled. Okay. At night, Gu Qingze brought Bai Yu to Causeway Bay. Bai Yu heard of Causeway Bay for the first time in the form of a KTV. Before coming to Hong Kong, she did not know that Causeway Bay was the most famous landmark in Hong Kong. There were many KTV chains in the capital, and one of the more famous ones was Causeway Bay KTV. What kind of place is Causeway Bay? On the way there, Bai Yu was a little curious when she learned that Gu Qingze was bringing her to Causeway Bay. Just like Wangfujing Street in the capital? Gu Qingze said, anyway, it's a pity to come to Hong Kong without shopping or going to department stores. If it's a department store, there's one in the capital too. That's different. Causeway Bay was located in the center of Hong Kong Island, west of the North Coast. It was the main business and entertainment center in Hong Kong. There were many large department stores and shopping malls in the area, including Sogo Department Store, Times Square, Lee Stage Plaza, and the World Trade Center. The Causeway Bay shopping area was also the most expensive area in the world. The Gu family had a commercial building in Causeway Bay. According to rough estimates, the annual rent alone could reach more than 100 billion, which was very impressive. Bai Yu could not help but imagine what kind of place Causeway Bay was. She originally thought that department stores and shopping malls were nothing more than the same concept. However, when they arrived at their destination, they were greeted by colorful neon lights, bustling crowds, and stacked signboards. There were no blind spots. Causeway Bay was not big, but it was especially prosperous. Bai glanced around and felt dazzled. It was too prosperous. Moreover, although there were many people, it gave off a sense of order. Guqingze held her hand as they entered the shopping mall. This department store was known as the Treasury. As long as one stepped into this place, there would always be countless ways to overdraft and squander money. This mall is times. In the crowded square, the lights were especially dazzling and bright, giving people a feeling of glittering jewels. Bai Lian felt that his eyes were stinging. Guqingze brought her to the Kuchi counter first. The moment they entered the counter, Bai was immediately attracted by the bags displayed in the display window. Gucci had counters in many cities, but there were some designs that could only be found in Beijing that could not be found in the counters in Hong Kong. Similarly, if it was available in Hong Kong, it would also be out of print in Beijing. Bai Ran was immediately captivated by Gucci's 2 limited edition products. She wasn't a bag fanatic in the past, but after Guqingze brought her to the counter a few times, it was as if the door to a whole new world had opened for her. The few bags he bought for her were exquisite and beautiful. She couldn't bear to put them down and couldn't even bear to carry them for fear that they would break. She carefully treasured them. Guqingze said half jokingly and half seriously, "If you can't bear to carry those bags, it can only mean that you don't have enough bags." Starter Zue New Chapter 8 Section Please go to Hangkou, mobile address. Watch Starter Zue New Section Please go to Client, mobile address. Chapter 150. At first, Bai Yanyan did not understand what he meant by not having enough bags. Next, Guqingze used his actions to explain to her what it meant to be a shopaholic. Bai Yanyan boasted that she was a woman who could shop. Although she did not shop much in the past, she often accompanied others to shop. In the past, when she shopped, she only shopped and did not buy anything. It was easy. However, the real tiring part of shopping was that she would enter any store she saw, try on any clothes she liked, pack them up after trying them on, pay for them after packing, and then move to the next stop. From the first floor to the second floor, Guqingze carried her like a little chick. He stopped at almost every store and pulled her in whenever he saw something nice. Bai Yanyan thought that he owned Times Square too. Swiping his card was like playing around. Before she could look at the price tag, Guqingze had already paid the bill and packed them up. Two. There wasn't even a buffer. After just one floor, Bai Yanyan started to doubt her life. She was so tired that she panted and asked to rest for a while. However, Guqingze did not give her the chance. It was rare to find a place to rest in such a huge shopping mall, so he simply continued shopping. Bags, jewelry, branded clothes, cosmetics, lipstick. Guqingze, who had been single for so many years, had accumulated a lot of money for a wife. In addition to this trip, he had plenty of money. Therefore, he seemed to have been liberated and went crazy. Guqingze must be an oddity, the complete opposite of other men. The other male subordinates in the company, whether it was accompanying their girlfriends or their wives to go shopping, would always have a bitter expression on their faces when they mentioned it. However, for some reason, Guqingze felt very envious. He felt that whether it was a bag or a nice dress, not to mention a lipstick that could be bought for a few hundred yuan, he felt that just these valuable positions could make his girlfriend and wife happy. This kind of happiness was really precious. Bai Yanyan was originally exhausted, but when she reached the MAC counter, she could not walk anymore. She liked lipstick, and MAC was the only lipstick she could afford in the past. Compared to other branded lipsticks that cost hundreds to thousands, MAC lipsticks only cost a little more than 100 yuan each. They were easy to use and had good color rendering. She once had one, and she had been using it until now. Even though she had seen the end of it, she was reluctant to throw it away. Seeing that she liked lipstick, Guqingze bought an entire box before she even had the chance to try out the color. There were 128 lipsticks in a luxurious box set. There were so many popular brands, and they had everything. Bai Ran had just unscrewed the cap of a lipstick. He hadn't even tried the color on the back of his hand, and he He had already placed an order? Bai Ran tugged at Gu Qing's sleeve in shock. What did you buy? Lipstick. 128. Bai Kun wanted to cry but had no tears. I only have one mouth. I can't even finish it. Moreover, lipstick has a shelf life, and the shelf life is very short. It's okay. If I can't finish it, I'll just keep it as a collection. Gu Qingzi said, such beautiful lips. Logically speaking, even if you put on makeup and lipstick every day, you'll be able to keep it on for at least half a year. But there are so many color codes. Do you only use 3 color codes a year? Oh my god. Gu Qingzi, a straight man, actually knew about color signals. Chapter 151. Brother Qingzi? A familiar and surprised voice came from not far away. Gu Qingzi turned around and saw that it was Mu Yueyao. He did not expect to see her in Hong Kong. Gu Qingzi was not mentally prepared at all. Mu Yueyao looked around cautiously, until she was sure that there was no one else around Gu Qingzi. Then she walked over carefully. Gu Qingzi glanced at her guilty expression and understood that she must have done something wrong. What? Gu Qingzi looked at her. Why are you so cautious? Are you alone? No. Gu Qingzi looked at her from the corner of his eye. Mu Yueyao saw that Bai Ran was choosing blush and eyeshadow. She was surprised. This is your sister-in-law. Are you married? Mu Yueyao was even more shocked. Yeah, I haven't had the time to inform her yet. When is the wedding? Gu Qingzi raised his eyebrows. At least until Nana wakes up. At the mention of Natalia, Mu Yueyao's eyelids twitched and she smiled. Oh right, we've already agreed on it. No matter whose wedding it is, we can't miss it. Yeah. Then, Mu Yueyao looked at him and then at Bai Ran. She asked curiously, why are you in Hong Kong? We're planning to travel and get married first. As for the ceremony, we'll officially send you an invitation when Nana wakes up. Okay. Then I'll wait for Brother Qingzi's wedding invitation. After a pause, Mu Yueyao sighed. I wonder when Nana will wake up. Tell me honestly. Gu Qingzi suddenly said something out of the blue. Ha. Mu Yueyao pointed at herself. Me? It's not the holidays now. Why are you in Hong Kong? Don't you have class? Mu Yueyao's face turned red. She was extremely embarrassed. Did you skip class again? Gu Qingzi inched closer. Tell me, why did you skip class? Jingyang has a fan meeting in Hong Kong tomorrow. I wanted to come early to pick him up and... Gu Qingzi's face darkened at the mention of Jingyang. You guys haven't reconciled yet? Mu Yueyao's face fell at his words. She let out a long sigh, turned around, and rubbed her forehead with a headache. I don't know. He seems to be avoiding me, but even if he doesn't forgive me, I don't care. Even if she could only hide in a corner and secretly watch him, that would be good. Gu Qingzi sighed internally. Yueyao was the little princess of the Mu family. She had been doted on since she was young. No one was willing to let her suffer the slightest grievance. Why did it have to be Jingyang? It was simply a calamity in her life. It had been 5 years since that incident. Jingyang still could not forgive Yueyao. However, everyone felt that it was not Yueyao's fault. However, Jingyang stubbornly believed that it was her fault. Yueyao also felt that she had let Jingyang down. Hence, in front of Jingyang, she hid her princess-like arrogance and was careful. She even had a sense of inferiority that did not match her status. She wanted to make it up to Jingyang as much as possible. She had also said that she wanted to atone for that incident. However, Yueyao, don't torture yourself because of that incident. Chapter 152. It's been so long. Are you still unwilling to let go of yourself? Gu Qingzi's heart ached for her. She was not responsible for what happened back then. However, after so many years, Yueyao still refused to let go of her. I also want to let go of myself. Mu Yueyao looked up. Her usual innocent smile was gone as she said calmly, if you want to let go of yourself, you have to let go of him. She suddenly clenched her fists and bit her lip hard. Gu Qingzi's heart ached as he raised his hand and pulled her into his embrace. Bai Ran had just finished choosing her eyeshadow. When she turned around, she saw Gu Qingzi hugging a girl. She was surprised and many question marks popped up in her mind. What was going on? Why was he hugging a girl in an unfamiliar city? Bai Ran did not think too much about it at first. Instead, she had a strange idea. There were many new street games nowadays. For example, blindfolded hugging and kissing any stranger, for example. The recently popular TikTok app. Many boys and girls took their phones to the streets to tease passers-by. Bai Ran suddenly realized what was going on. The person being hugged was her husband. Bai Ran was also somewhat territorial. She immediately walked over with a smile, but she aggressively walked behind Mu Yueyao. She lowered her voice and suddenly said, "What are you doing?" Mu Yueyao was shocked by this voice and immediately separated from Gu Qingze. Gu Qingze looked at Bai Ran and raised his eyebrows slightly. However, he did not explain immediately. Instead, he smiled gently and said nothing. On the other hand, Mu Yueyao was flustered. She knew that Bai Ran was Gu Qingze's newlywed wife. With the mentality of avoiding suspicion, she immediately distanced herself from Gu Qingze. "Hello, sister-in-law." She stood upright. Her outstanding performance in the military training in university made Bai Ran think that she had a military background. Aya, what a coincidence. It's fate to meet big brother Qingze and sister-in-law here. Ha 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 ha. She laughed awkwardly, which made Bai Hao puzzled. This girl, why did she feel so guilty? Mu Yueyao was stared at by Bai Ran and felt even more guilty. She quickly tried to smooth things over. Big brother Qingze is so mean. When did he get married? He didn't announce it to the public. Bai Hao got straight to the point. Why were you hugging each other? Mu Yueyao explained, because brother Qingze and I haven't seen each other in a long time. I didn't expect to meet you in Hong Kong. Bai Ran looked at Gu Qingze suspiciously. Gu Qingze smiled and explained, I haven't had the chance to introduce you. This is Yueyao Mu. Ugh. Do you still remember my friend at the Spring River Heavenly Seal? Yes. Remember, his name is Yin Tianyu. Yueyao is his biological sister. His biological sister. No wonder when Bai Ran saw Yueyao, he immediately felt that there was something familiar about her. Just like Yin Tianyu, whom she met at the Imperial Seal, and also the movie queen, Yin Shirshir. So she was his biological sister. Bai Ran's face turned slightly red. After all, she had misunderstood Yueyao just now. Yueyao. She smiled and extended her hand to Yueyao in a friendly manner. Hello, I'm Bai Ran. Yueyao hurriedly extended her hand. Hello, sister-in-law Bai Ran. Don't call me sister-in-law. It sounds awkward. No, sister-in-law is sister-in-law. Chapter 153. Alright. Gu Qingze was amused by Yueyao's flattering look. Which hotel are you staying at? Hilton. When are you going back? Just as Gu Qingze finished speaking, Bai Xing added, Why don't we have dinner together later? Mu Yueyao quickly shook her head. It's okay, no. Let's go together. I have to pick her up at the airport later. Pick her up at the airport. Bai Ran looked at Gu Qingze in confusion. What? What does this mean? Gu Qingze said, she has something to do later. I'll treat you and Jingyang to dinner tomorrow. Okay. Mu Yueyao quickly retreated. Bai Ran looked at her back view strangely and asked curiously, What's going on? She seems very shy. Gu Qingze was a little embarrassed. Well, it's because I didn't have time to tell her about my marriage. It was indeed rushed. Also, wasn't our previous marriage considered a secret? I didn't tell my friends and colleagues either. So, it's normal that your friends don't know. You don't have to look so guilty. Gu Qingze's lips curled into a smile. Suddenly, he looked at her mysteriously, but there was a hint of playfulness in his gaze. Your reaction just now seemed particularly strange. Strange? What's strange? Being stared at by him, by you felt inexplicably guilty. Gu Qingze's gaze deepened. He lowered his head and asked in a voice that only she could hear, You saw me hugging another girl just now. From your gaze, it seemed like you were jealous? Bai Ran was so shocked that she almost bit her tongue. She stuttered. I wasn't jealous just now. I was just a little surprised. Is it difficult to admit that you're jealous? Gu Qingze pinched her nose lovingly and dotingly. Tell me you're jealous. Bai Hao held his breath and puffed his cheeks. This feeling of being seen through was so embarrassing. She had always wanted to be a magnanimous wife. However, when she saw her husband hugging a strange girl, her first reaction wasn't to find out who the girl was, but to feel jealous. He felt that the scene was very eye-piercing. Bai Hao was like a kid who had made a mistake. He lowered his head. If I'm jealous, will you feel unhappy? Gu Qingze raised his eyebrows. How can that be? I'm happy that you're jealous. Why? Because I would think that you must care a lot about me. That's why you're jealous. As Gu Qingze spoke, he gently kissed her cheek. Sometimes, I wish you could be more petty. When Bai Yu heard this, his face turned even redder. She pursed her lips. When she heard this, she finally admitted, I was a little jealous just now. I felt sour. Ha ha. Gu Qingze suddenly laughed softly. His voice was especially pleasant to the ears. It was as clear as spring water, without any impurities. Hearing this voice, Bai Ran's face burned even more. She could vaguely hear him ask, have you chosen your eyeshadow? Here's the ticket. Bai Ran lowered her head and passed the ticket to him. Gu Qingze said to her, wait for me here. I'll go pay the bill. Okay. Bai Ran kept her head down as she secretly watched Gu Qingze's back view as he went to pay the bill. The more she watched, the happier she felt. Watch first appearance Zue new chapter section please go client. Mobile address. Watch first appearance Zue new chapter section please go client. Mobile address. Chapter 154. After shopping in Times Square, Bai Ran had done a lot of planning before coming to Hong Kong. Therefore, she suggested that they go to the online celebrity restaurant to check in. In the age of the internet, the concept of online celebrity restaurants and online celebrity dessert shops were everywhere. However, Gu Qingze did not have a good impression of online celebrity restaurants. The so-called online celebrity restaurants were actually cheap, affordable, and more delicious. In the past, when he was on a business trip to another city, he would occasionally want to go to the online celebrity restaurants on a whim. However, in fact, many online celebrity restaurants often had a bad service attitude. Perhaps it was because business was too good, and they had to serve many customers every day, so the waiters' tempers were not necessarily too good. In fact, there were countless places that were better than the online celebrity restaurants. It was just that because of the price, they did not have much exposure. Gu Qingze was not very willing to go to the online celebrity restaurants, because as expected, the attitude of the staff should be quite bad. Some people did not care about the service attitude. However, Gu Qingze was a very particular man. He was not willing to spend money to get angry. Don't go to the online celebrity restaurants. Gu Qingze suddenly said, I don't think there's anything good about the online celebrity restaurants. Huh? Actually, there are many restaurants that are better than the online celebrity restaurants. I used to come to Hong Kong for business trips often, so I know a few good restaurants. Do you want to try them? When Bai Ran heard this, she was almost drooling. Okay. Gu Qingze saw her excited expression and could not help but laugh. Why do your eyes seem to light up when it comes to delicious food? Because I'm so hungry. I'm a little hungry. As Bai Ran spoke, she tilted her head. I think that in this world, only love and delicious food can't be let down. Okay, you won't let me down. It's a good thing that you like to eat. How is it a good thing? Because if we quarrel in the future, as long as I take you to eat delicious food, you definitely won't be angry. Gu Qingze said it so matter-of-factly. Bai Ran said, won't you feed me until I'm white and fat like this? Gu Qingze said with a serious expression, isn't it good to be white and fat? You're so thin now. When I hold you in my arms, I feel that there's not much meat on your body other than bones. Emph. Bai Kun pretended to be angry and said, when I eat until I'm white and fat, won't you dislike me? Why would I dislike it? Gu Qingze raised his eyebrows and said, I like you. Even if you're as fat as a pig, I don't care. Really? But I can't accept that I'm too fat and out of shape, Bai Hao said with a look of disbelief. If that was the case, she wouldn't be able to wear any pretty clothes. She was obsessed with beauty, so she was especially strict with her body. Gu Qingze pinched her cheek and said, to be honest, I don't like you when you're too skinny. If she had more meat on her body, she would be even cuter. If you're too skinny, I won't feel comfortable holding you in my arms at night. It's not good to be too fat. Yes, it's a little meaty. A little plumper is enough. When Baikun heard this, he was still a little skeptical. Let's go. If we're any later, we'll have to line up again. Gu Qingze naturally held her hand. Viewing Starter Zue New Chapter 8 Sections Welcome to Hall of Visitors Mobile Address. Watch Starter Zue New Chapter 8 Sections Welcome to Hall of Visitors Mobile Address. Chapter 155. Gu Qingze knew that there was an authentic Cantonese restaurant in Hong Kong that tasted pretty good. Hong Kong was inclusive of all things. The food culture of various countries bloomed here. However, when he came to Hong Kong, he naturally had to taste authentic Cantonese food. Gu Qingze often went abroad, but after traveling to so many countries, he still felt that China's food culture was the most delicious. Gu Qingze had a preference for Cantonese food. In Hong Kong, there were many authentic Cantonese dishes, but for the picky Gu Qingze, the restaurants were also divided into different grades. As he was a regular customer, he would come to this restaurant every time he came to Hong Kong. Purple Air from the East was the name of this Cantonese restaurant. It was very recognizable and was easy to remember. When the manager saw Gu Qingze, he welcomed him warmly. Are you here on a business trip again? No. Gu Qingze pushed Bai Sheng in front of the manager and introduced her solemnly. This is my wife. This is our wedding trip. Hong Kong is the starting point. We plan to travel around the world to commemorate our wedding. When the manager heard that it was a wedding trip, he was a little surprised. A wedding trip? Yes. Although there were many people who wanted to go on a wedding trip, and it was trending, not many people actually took action. When he heard that it was a wedding trip, the manager was so excited that his face was flushed red. Mr. Gu, you came at the right time. We have a honeymoon room here. It seems that fate has decided to prepare it for you. Gu Qingze nodded and held Bai Sheng's hand as he followed the manager to the room. Along the way, Bai Sheng was really getting more and more nervous. The restaurant's furnishings were especially luxurious. Although many glittering elements were used, they were not tacky. Instead, they showed a noble style. Bai Sheng was a little worried. She asked nervously in a low voice, "Will the expenses here be very high?" It had almost become an instinct for her to care about the amount of expenses. Because her life had always been tight, no matter what expenses she had, she would prioritize whether the amount of expenses would exceed her expectations. Gu Qingze said seriously, "From now on, you're not allowed to think about spending anymore." I'm worried. The worry on Bai Sheng's face was so serious that Gu Qingze didn't know whether to laugh or cry. What are you worried about? I'm afraid that I'll spend too much money. What if I don't have enough money to go home halfway? Gu Qingze tried hard to hold back his laughter and said, "Then I'll sell you, okay?" In a moment of desperation, Bai Sheng blurted out, "But I don't think I can sell for much money." Ha 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 ha. Gu Qingze burst out laughing. He had always been a reserved person. Smiling like this was already a bit of a loss of self-control. Idiot, how are you worthless? You're a priceless treasure that only people can't afford. Besides, I won't really sell you. Well, don't mention the money anymore. Since we're going to travel around the world, I've brought enough money with me. He even brought a few black cards with him. The limit of the black card was unlimited. There was nothing to worry about. Only then did Bai Sheng relax. After the two of them entered the private room, Bai Sheng's concept of luxury was refreshed. The private room was especially big. The moment they entered the room, they were attracted by the crystal chandelier that occupied the entire ceiling. The chandelier was made up of countless crystal tubes. When the wind blew, they would collide with each other, creating a pleasant tinkling sound. Viewing Starter Zue New Chapter 8 Sections Welcome to Hall of Visitors, Mobile Address. Watch Starter Zue New Chapter 8 Sections Welcome to Hall of Visitors, Mobile Address. Chapter 156. It was too beautiful. The entire ceiling of the huge private room was occupied by this chandelier. Wasn't this chandelier too big? And it must have cost a fortune, right? She had seen a chandelier that was 1/10 the size of the chandelier. Just the chandelier alone cost tens of thousands. Just the chandelier in the private room must have cost several times the cost. Once they entered the private room, Bai Ran stared at the chandelier. Guqingzi gently tugged at her sleeve. What are you looking at? I'm looking at how many crystal tubes there are. Beside them, the waiter smiled knowingly and immediately explained. Sir, our chandelier is made up of a total of 4,600 crystal tubes. More than 4,000 tubes. It was so grand. Byran was so shocked that her mouth opened wide and she gasped. Before she could finish gasping, her peripheral vision was attracted by the luxurious floor-to-ceiling balcony. The private room was made up of a suite. Inside it, there was a pantry, a reception room, a bathroom and a dining room. In addition, there was also a 40-square-meter balcony. The balcony was surrounded by roses. Dark green vines wrapped around the railings of the balcony. There was an inexplicable beauty to it. This time, the inhalation was exceptionally long. It's too beautiful. It was her first time eating in such a beautiful environment. She felt inexplicably touched. The heart of a young girl that had long withered in her heart seemed to have been revived. Guqingzi saw that Byran couldn't hide the surprise and love on her face and felt satisfied. Although this restaurant's per capita spending was high, the environment was really good. Other than the environment, the taste was also very good. The flavor was unique. It was much more meaningful than squeezing into the crowded shops that were popular on the internet. Byran sat down and waited to order. However, after the waiter settled them down, he lit the candles and left quietly. Byran was speechless. What's going on? Guqingzi raised his eyebrows. What do you mean what's going on? Isn't anyone ordering? Ordering? Guqingzi smiled and explained gently. There are only two menus here. One is the family menu, and the other is the lover's menu. The dishes on the menu are fixed. You can't choose. Byran felt that this way of eating was a little novel, but he still couldn't help but worry. However, if the set meal is fixed, then won't it be too much to eat? The amount here is based on everyone's average appetite. It won't be a lot. Moreover, it's very delicious. Even if you're full, you won't notice it easily. It had to be said that the owner of the restaurant had a unique way of doing business. Imagine a dish that was incomparably delicious, but there was only a fixed amount of it. No matter how delicious something was, it was inevitable that one would get sick of it after eating too much. With such a fixed amount of food, there would be nothing left after eating it. If one felt that it was delicious, they would feel that it was not enough. Next time, they would still be unable to resist coming here. Every time they ate, their experience would be just right, and they would not overdo it. Instead, it would leave them with an incomparable aftertaste. It was said that a couple came here for a meal on their first date. Since then, they were obsessed with the delicacies here, and would come here a few times a month. The expenses here were very high. It was already good enough that he rarely came here. It was too extravagant to come a few times a month. In the end, the man was so miserable that he almost went bankrupt. He quickly broke up with his girlfriend, which made people not know whether to laugh or cry. Viewing Starter Zue New Chapter 8 sections, please go to Tangku, mobile address. Starter Zue New Chapter sections, please go to Tangku, mobile address. Chapter 157. After sitting down for about half an hour, the dishes began to be served in an orderly manner. Guangzhou cuisine included the Pearl River Delta, Shaoguan, Zhangjiang, and other places. The ingredients were rich, the selection was meticulous, and the skills were excellent. It was clear but not bland, fresh but not uncommon, tender but not raw, and oily but not greasy. Generally, in terms of cooking, it was good at stir-frying. It required the control of the fire and the oil temperature to be just right. At the same time, it was also compatible with many Western cooking methods. It paid attention to the momentum and grade of the dishes. Chaozhou cuisine originated from the Chaos Han area. It was the best of Min and Guangdong, forming its own style. Among them, it was good at cooking seafood. Soups, vegetables, and beets were the most unique. The knife skills were exquisite, and the taste was pure. Dongjiang cuisine originated from the Dongjiang area of Guangdong. The dishes were mostly meat, and there were very few seafood. The main ingredients were prominent, and it paid attention to fragrance, heavy oil, and the taste was salty. It was good at casseroles and had a unique local flavor. Originally, Byran thought that she would definitely not be used to it. She was born in the capital, But she was born spicy. Originally, it was hard for her to imagine what sweet tofu pudding tasted like in the north and south. It was said that the taste of Cantonese cuisine was on the sweet side. Among the 6 cold dishes, the most famous in Cantonese cuisine, white-cut chicken and honey roast pork. Bai Ran ate a piece of barbecued pork and was surprised. She had already defined the taste of barbecued pork in her mind. No matter how delicious it would only taste like that. She did not expect the authentic honey roast pork to taste so delicious. Bai Ran could not help but start to study. What seasoning was used to make this plate of barbecued pork? How could the same seasoning be delicious in some restaurants and ordinary in others? Although she did not often eat Cantonese cuisine, she had occasionally eaten Cantonese cuisine at gatherings. The taste was not so authentic and delicious. It was so delicious that she cried tears of happiness. Bai Ran held her chopsticks and was still intoxicated by the aftertaste of the barbecued pork. Gu Qingzi recommended another set of Hong Kong-style shrimp dumplings. Eat this. Okay. Bai Ran was really conquered by the delicious taste of Cantonese cuisine. Seeing that Gu Qingzi strongly recommended the shrimp dumplings, she immediately reached out her chopsticks and picked one up. He put a thin and tender prawn dumpling into his mouth. Before he could chew it carefully, the skin broke under the gentle bite of his teeth. The fresh and tender gravy and the delicious aroma of the prawns immediately rushed into his mouth. Ugh, Bai Hao's eyes brightened. He couldn't help but twist his body and shake his head. He looked so cute. Gu Qingzi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This is so fun. Why are you jumping up and down while eating? It was as if they were dancing. Delicious. Bai Hao couldn't help but pick up another one. As soon as he put it into his mouth, he started to nod like a little rabbit. Gu Qingzi had never seen a person who wanted nothing more than to dance while eating. Ever since he was young, he had received a strict upbringing. Gu Jinglian was especially strict when it came to family education. Although they were not as strict as before, they had more rules than ordinary families. When he was young, whenever he ate something delicious, his body would shake uncontrollably. However, as he gradually grew up, he followed the rules and basically did not show any emotions when he ate. Whether it was delicious or not, it was all the same. If Bai Ran behaved like this, Gu Jinglian would say that he had no manners. However, he felt that Bai Hao's unruly display of his true feelings was very cute. Chapter 158. At the airport. It was packed with people. Many fans were holding flowers in their hands, eagerly anticipating the appearance of their idol. They were all looking at the screen, waiting for the flight carrying their idol to land in front of them. Mu Yueyao stood at the closest spot, leaning against the railing. She was holding the flowers in her hands, feeling a little nervous. Suddenly, a scream came from the crowd. Jing Yang is here. The next second, a group of intimidating bodyguards appeared at the arrival gate. The men in black suits cleared the way. Even though there were so many bodyguards surrounding him, a tall figure stood out among them. Immediately after, the media, who were waiting at the scene, rushed forward like crazy. The cameras flashed and Jing Yang's black sunglasses came in handy. He was wearing a slim-fit coat and a mask. The flight from America to Hong Kong was very long. He looked a little tired as he walked forward with his head lowered. When Mu Yueyao saw Jing Yang, she immediately went up to him with the flowers in her arms. Brother Jing Yang. Before she could finish her sentence, the man in the center of the circle suddenly turned around. However, when his gaze landed on her, he immediately turned away coldly. Mu Yueyao was stunned. He had clearly seen her, but he ignored her. While she was in a daze, she was pushed to the ground by the crowd. In order to get closer to their idol, the fans used all their brute force to push forward. Mu Yueyao was pushed to the ground. When she got up in a daze, the crowd had already gone far away. The flowers in her arms fell to the ground in the midst of the shoving. Countless feet trampled over them. The petals fell and were crushed, almost turning into mush. Mu Yueyao looked at the bouquet of flowers and her tears fell. Her heart seemed to have turned into countless petals, and was extremely broken. He saw her, but he didn't stop walking. Instead, he quickly left the airport under the protection of the bodyguards. In the blink of an eye, she was the only one left in the originally crowded arrival hall. When the cleaning auntie saw her, she immediately walked over and asked with concern, "Are you okay? Mu Yueyao curled her lips and smiled. She wanted to smile, but her tears fell even more violently. How did it become like this? He used to be her strongest pillar of support. But now, they were like strangers. He walked past her, his eyes cold and indifferent. He didn't even look back. Yueyao silently picked up the flowers on the ground and hugged them tightly in her arms. She squatted on the ground and was stared at by the staff. She couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed and immediately buried her head in her arms. "Ai, this girl is so beautiful. Why is she crying so sadly?" They seem to be Jing Yang's fans? These children, instead of studying, they came here to chase after celebrities. I wonder if they treat their idols so well, but how do they treat their parents? Do you still need to ask? He must be an ingrate. The flowers were crushed, but he didn't even look at his idol. The group of people seemed to be regretful and mocking as they shook their heads and left in twos and threes. Mu Yueyao didn't seem to hear what they were saying. She hugged the flowers and walked towards the door alone. At the entrance, the fans still left every day, chattering about the itinerary for the next day. It seemed that Jing Yang had already left in his car. Viewing starter Zue New Chapter 8 Sections. Welcome to Hall of Visitors, mobile address. Chapter 159. Yueyao quietly walked along the main road of the airport with the flowers in her arms. This was a place not far from the drop-off area. The taxi arrived with the guests and left with the guests. On the huge overpass, she was the only one walking on the side of the road. Her back view looked lonely. During this time, countless cars brushed past her and almost hit her, but her expression did not change at all. However, the passers-by could not help but feel frightened when they saw her. They stopped their cars from time to time to remind her. "Young lady, it's so late. Why are you walking on the street alone? Where are you going? Get in the car? Take a ride." Yueyao only shook her head. She did not hear what they were saying at all. Whether it was out of concern or other intentions, she just hoped that these noises would be as far away from her as possible. Until a nanny van stopped behind her. Honk, honk, honk. The car honked. The sudden movement gave her a big fright. Yueyao hugged the scattered flowers and turned around in surprise. However, she only saw a pair of particularly glaring lights. She saw the Mercedes-Benz logo and saw the completely dark car window. She frowned and looked at it suspiciously. Just as she was about to turn around, behind her, there were a few more honking sounds. This time, she was completely annoyed. Mu Yueyao hugged the flowers and walked toward the door of the front passenger seat. However, the door of the back seat opened, and a man in a black suit walked out. He looked like a bodyguard. "Miss Yueyao, please get in the car." "Get in the car." Mu Yueyao was suspicious. "What are you doing? Please get in the car." The man repeated again, but his attitude was surprisingly good. Mu Yueyao could not help but look at the back seat. From her angle, she could vaguely see the silhouette of a man. She was a little surprised. From the silhouette of this figure, she immediately thought of Jing Yang. Could it be him? Mu Yueyao walked toward the car door again. However, the bodyguard raised his hand and gently pressed it against her back, pushing her into the car. After some hesitation, Yueyao sat in the back seat. However, she suddenly became reserved. Jing Yang did not speak. He just looked ahead. The bodyguard got into the front passenger seat and closed the door, cutting off all the noise outside the car. The soundproofing of the car was very good. She could even clearly hear the man's steady and quiet breathing beside her. She was at a loss for a moment. She lowered her head and looked at the flowers in her arms that had been crushed by someone's foot. She was even more embarrassed. In his opinion, she must be very stupid. He wanted to throw it away, but he couldn't just open the window and throw it away. Mu Yueyao hugged the flowers tightly in annoyance. She didn't know whether to throw them away or not. She just sat there like a fool. The man beside her didn't say anything, and he didn't even pay attention to her. His eyes were looking out the window, and she didn't know what he was looking at. After a long time he suddenly spoke. "Don't do this kind of thing again." "Such a thing?" Yueyao widened her eyes in surprise. "What's the matter?" Jing Yang did not look at her. Instead he snorted. "What do you think?" Mu Yueyao felt a little wronged. She had traveled thousands of miles to Hong Kong just to pick him up from the airport, but he brushed it off by saying such a thing. No matter how warm her heart was, it was instantly splashed with a basin of cold water. I know. Mu Yueyao was a little peeved. I won't do it again. Jingyang asked again. Where are you staying? I'll get the chauffeur to send you back. End of chapter. Chapter 160. Just as Mu Yueyao was about to answer, she suddenly realized that she had booked the same hotel as him. If she were to tell him that the hotel she had booked was the hotel that the organizer had arranged for him, wouldn't it seem too deliberate? Mu Yueyao gulped, feeling wronged. She pursed her lips but didn't say anything. Seeing that she was silent, Jingyang frowned and asked, Where are you staying? He repeated his words again, his tone showing his impatience. Mu Yueyao immediately said, Drop me off at the junction. I'll take a cab back. I said I'll get the chauffeur to send you. Why are you sending me? Mu Yueyao was trying to provoke him. She smiled helplessly and said, Didn't you say so? You told me not to pester you anymore. You can just drop me off at the junction. Don't worry, no matter how capable I am, I won't pester you anymore. Jingyang silently scrutinized her for a long time. After a long silence he said, I came back to pick you up on account of your daddy and mommy. Yueyao, don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Because of his words, Yueyao's grievances finally overflowed. She held back her tears, but she stubbornly forced them back. Gritting her teeth, she looked up and said, I don't want you to care about me. Don't care about me. And don't use my daddy and mommy to pressure me. Jingyang, don't go overboard. Jingyang looked at her silently but didn't say a word. Yueyao then realized that his gaze had become even colder. Because of her words, his expression suddenly collapsed. Yueyao bit her lip, knowing that her words had angered him. She didn't say another word. It was so strange. She had lost control once again. Clearly, she wanted to get close to him and win him back. However, the relationship between the two people was once again brought to the freezing point. In the Mu family, everyone dotes on you and spoils you. It's okay for you to be arrogant because of that. But with me, I don't have to indulge you. As Jingyang spoke, the car arrived at the junction. He instructed the chauffeur to stop the car, and the car stopped by the roadside. Jingyang looked out of the window and did not look at her again. Although he didn't say anything, the cold air reminded her that he was chasing her out of the car. Mu Yueyao didn't stay any longer. She hugged the flowers and got out of the car directly. As soon as she got out of the car, the bodyguard got out of the front passenger seat and closed the door. He then returned to the front passenger seat and the car sped away. Mu Yueyao did not turn back to look at the car. It was not until the sound of the engine had faded away that her tears stopped falling. How did it end up like this? Even if it was because of that incident, so many years should be enough, right? In front of him, she had always been humble, patient, pandering, and guilty. He saw it all but remained unmoved. Was she so unforgivable? Even if she was young and ignorant and made a mistake, after so many years, even if he didn't forgive her, he wouldn't look at her with such hatred. If apologizing was useful, she was willing to apologize to him 1,000,000 times. If there was a way to pay for her mistakes, she was willing to do everything she could to repay the past. But the past could no longer be reversed. Why couldn't he forgive her? Mu Yueyao stood by the roadside. At this moment, the street was no longer as busy as before. There were few pedestrians and only cars coming and going. She knew that he wouldn't instruct the chauffeur to turn around. He had really abandoned her. Chapter 161. Mu Yueyao returned to the hotel and walked into the elevator. She wanted to swipe her card, but when she searched all her pockets, she realized that her bag was gone. The card was in her bag, but she couldn't find her bag. Mu Yueyao was stunned. She furrowed her brows. Even when the elevator door slowly closed and started to rise, she was still in a daze. Where was her bag? She remembered that she was carrying it when she went to the airport, but when she came back, she couldn't remember when her bag had suddenly disappeared. When she came back, she walked all the way back and didn't seem to have met anyone. In the end, she hailed a taxi. Yes, when she paid for the taxi, her bag seemed to still be beside her. Mu Yueyao couldn't remember at that moment. Her bag was really gone. Other than the hotel card, her passport and all her other documents were in her bag. Mu Yueyao then realized the seriousness of the matter. Damn it. The money and bank cards didn't matter. Although she had a credit card, the credit card limit was relatively small. Besides, she could cancel it at the bank at any time. But those documents and all kinds of proof, and most importantly, if she lost her room card, where should she stay tonight? Unknowingly, the elevator doors opened again with a ding. When the doors opened, Mu Yueyao looked up. However, when she saw a group of people standing at the door, she was completely stunned again. She bumped into him again, Jing Yang. He must have returned to the hotel early, but he didn't appear alone. Besides his manager and assistant, there was also a gorgeously dressed and extremely beautiful girl beside him. She was dressed sexily, and when she smiled, there was a hint of coquettishness. The reason why Mu Yueyao was stunned was because this girl was standing right next to Jing Yang without any gap between them. They looked really intimate. Jing Yang was originally talking to the girl beside him. When he turned his head and saw Mu Yueyao standing in the elevator, he was also stunned for a moment. He suddenly reached out and held the girl's hand. The girl was also stunned for a moment. Her face immediately turned red, and she held Jing Yang's hand back shyly and intimately. The two of them held hands tightly and walked into the elevator together. The hotel's VIP elevator wasn't very big to begin with. When the group of 5 walked into the elevator, Yueyao was immediately squeezed into a corner. She wasn't very tall, and from her angle, she could only see Jing Yang and the girl holding hands tightly. She was separated from the two of them by 2 assistants, but she could vaguely feel that they had a close relationship. It was already so late. Where were they going? Furthermore, Jing Yang was staying in this hotel. The others were either agents or assistants. What about this girl? It was already so late. Why would she appear together with him? Could it be? Was she the partner the organizer had arranged for Jing Yang? It was said that for many celebrities, the organizers would considerately prepare a beautiful girl for the male celebrity to accompany them. During these few days of local activities, this girl would always be by his side, doing whatever he wanted. Many male idols couldn't fall in love during the contract period, let alone get married. However, physiological needs could not be ignored. Therefore, the organizers took these problems into consideration and usually arranged for a girl of such status. Usually, when the celebrity returned to the hotel, the girl would already be waiting in the room. At this time, were they preparing to go out for supper or to go to a nightclub to drink?